Let's roll, rolling at the start. We here to bring the truth. Jar open this podcast. We breaking through the fake news. They try to silence us, but we will be subdued. We're bearded alpha males here to save the youth. Spitting fire on the mic with the bass, Christian takes. Exposing the lies, keeping the demons at bay. We ain't afraid to speak up. We won't be swayed. Jar open this podcast where the truth is laid. Jar openers, cracking open the lies. We're rolling Atlas up. We're here to rise. Bearded alpha males saving the youth from the godless demons, spreading the truth. We ain't playing games, we're on a mission to awaken the masses with our intuition. Pulling out the corruption with no inhibition. Jar open this podcast, sparking a revolution. We're not afraid to stand tall in a world full of deceit. We're the voice of reason, bringing light to the street. Keeping it real, never missing a beat. Jar open this podcast where the truth meets the heat. Jar openers, cracking open the lies. We're rolling Atlas up, we're here to rise. Bearded alpha males saving the youth from the godless demons, spreading the truth. Jar open this podcast where the truth will never cease. Join us on the journey to bring back peace. We're rolling out the studs, fearless in our release. Jar open this podcast where the lies will decrease.
What is up?
Yeah, what's up, everybody?
Jamie in chat calling us out for being a couple minutes late. My apologies. Atlas had a little success on his main channel, the video that he put out yesterday, and we were talking about it, and I lost track of time. So my bad. But congratulations to Atlas. He's getting that first video that's kind of popping off, and it's a good feeling. A good feeling. So congratulations, everybody.
No, thank you. Yeah, and it's thanks to you guys as well, right? Helps tell the YouTube algorithm to do good things with this video. And in the first 20 minutes, I got a good fan base like you guys who come in and swarm it with likes. So thank you very much, everybody. I know Titan even was explaining how he's plays things or multiple off of different accounts and so all those things, all of it adds up to help. So thank you very much.
Yeah, man. Likes, comments, shares, follows, subscriptions, all that type of stuff helps us out. So make sure you guys are sharing the show, having a little fun on a Saturday evening, the last day of May. The other day I was like, man, this year is halfway over, but it's actually at the end of next month. So almost halfway through the year, but this year is flying by. Great job, assless.
I know. I think she said that because she said it wrong one time and it stuck. That's what they've been calling me. Assless.
Yeah, I remember that. What's up, TNT? I didn't see you there, bud. So been kind of a slow news day. Had some stuff happen the days, leading up to the show after we were live last. So we'll kind of delve into some of that stuff. Like we have the I got everything opened up and scattered around here on this page. We got the Glenn Greenwald leak, which on the surface I'm just like, whatever. But there's some elements that are worth talking about. I don't think anybody's surprised that Glenn Greenwald, openly gay dude, participates in gay acts, but there's other aspects to the story that we'll delve into. House Leotardo says happy Covfefe. Yeah, man.
Today's the 30th, right? Or the 31st.
Yeah, say it's today the actual day. We have the this Palantir database of Americans debacle situation, ironically named sharing the name with Lord of the Rings, apparently the all-seeing eye called Palantir. So that's kind of an interesting little story worth talking about. The Tennessee trans shooter manifesto was released in full effect, and I saw that you actually put out a decent little thread there on X. Kind of sharing some screenshots of some of the more disturbing posts, not posts, but images that the person was, writing in there. Huge. What was like 100-page manifesto or something like that? I mean, just
So it was like about a year ago. that the FBI had announced that they had received it, that they were gonna begin handing it out. I believe it was like Steven Crowder and a couple others got their hands on it, maybe even like Tommy Lauren in the
Oh yeah.
initial phases got it, but what they got was the heavily redacted version. So as far as I understand, when I was looking at some of those year-old news stories, was the ones that they got were only like 10%. Like it was extremely heavily redacted, so only 10% was visible. The new and updated version is kind of like the inverse. Only like 3 or 4% of it's redacted. The rest is kind of all published now. The things that they left redacted were like maps of the school, and I believe some of the individuals, like in the victims' names, like Audrey Hale's father, and a few other students who were involved. But I was actually planning on making that thread a lot longer. The longer I was looking at that manifesto, I'm not even joking you, the more I could literally feel like the evil kind of nature of this. It's kind of like holding the Annabelle doll from The Conjuring. Like you can just feel there's something wrong with this. And as I was going through it, I mean, it was very dark. And in between all of like the ones that I took screenshots of were various things that made me very sad because it was a bunch of lists of TV series I need to watch before Death Day, or movies I would like to watch before Death Day, movies to remind me why I'm doing what I'm doing, right? And it was a bunch of these lists repeatedly, you
Hmm.
know, and it was just shows you like this was like what again, like a 15, 16, 17-year-old individual, he kind of struggling in like this torn mindset. You can just see it, you can feel the cries of desperation kind of coming off the page. It was super dark. So I think I only posted like 6 or 7 screenshots of some of the
Yeah.
more nefarious stuff there towards the end of the manifesto because it is massive. And as you read through it, you realize there was multiple other dates that they picked to do this, but they would end up getting too anxious or too scared to do so until they eventually did do it. But it's just sad because you're basically reading the evil, perverted thoughts of a poor soul who's been led astray. Just overall, just a very dark thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll get into that whole scenario here in a little bit. And then we're gonna also talk about the continuation, this Biden mental decline as this scandal widens surrounding that. So, got a few other things that we might get to if time permits, but I guess let's start off here with this Glenn Greenwald thing. Um, it broke yesterday, and let me give me 1 second here, folks.
There's
Make sure
a
make
lot.
sure I have this pulled up here properly and set up. Okay, let me share my screen.
Yeah. I mean, to just break this down, I even in this outline, I wanted to kind of separate it into multiple different sections because there's a lot of moving pieces to this. Um, so really, the story is leaked video, not even just like homosexuals engaging in sex acts. I mean, like we're talking like very kink fetish extreme, like we're talking extreme degenerate behavior that was on the video, right? So it wasn't just like similar to the previous instance in the White House where it's just like two guys having, engaging in intercourse. This actually was like the extreme form of that. So to
Well, I
anybody who's
mean,
seen the
I
video,
figure honestly, I figure all gay sex is pretty extreme and perverse or whatever. So
right?
I'm not
And
not
this is
surprised, not surprised at all.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
No,
Uh,
you're right. And Milo's actually, I included some tweets from Milo as well because Milo Yiannopoulos has been going pretty hard at this, right? This is a guy who is very vocally and publicly trying to be a better Christian and had a very public experience of being a gay individual, right? So he's trying to walk these things back. He's very eccentric. Everyone for here, for the most part, is familiar with him. But he made the same point there, which is this is a window to the inside of the homosexual lifestyle. Is basically what he said, paraphrasing, but pointing out that what you expect, like the vanilla form of having intercourse, that's typical in heterosexual relationships, right? It's like it's just the marital act, right? Or should be the marital act. Whereas seemingly in these homosexual relationships, there's all of these other kind of degenerate, humiliating kinks that all kind of like wrap around inside of it too. But that's a side point. We'll get to that. Really though, the main story is was this leak in an attempt to silence and humiliate Glenn Greenwald, which some are arguing there's a camp that feels that way, and premeditated to the Tucker Carlson and Glenn Greenwald interview that was gets set to release just right before this. And then you have the faction that's arguing they don't think this was a blackmail operation. Because there is screenshots, which I wasn't able to verify, but I did see them on X, that shows that Glenn Greenwald actually reposted this said video, this leaked video, on his main account and then quickly deleted everything. So there's an argument to be made, or did Glenn do this on purpose? Because based on what you saw in the video, does he have a humiliation fetish? So those are like two major moving parts here. And so the big thing that's kind of wrapped up in all of this is the one side, you have conservatives who are now infighting because they don't like that other conservatives are defending Glenn because they don't think that any ounce of homosexuality should be allowed into the camp. So that's one fight that's happening. Then the secondary fight is those who are arguing, was this purposeful? Was this part of a blackmail operation? Does this have ties to the information that Glenn has been on recently, which Glenn's been on a tirade, very outspoken against the Israel and Gaza conflict, as well as the Epstein ties too, which was a big proponent of what they talked about in the Tucker Carlson interview. So with all that being said, we can probably just basically start off with the fact that Glenn put out a statement, and this is what his statement was in regards to the events that took place. And I don't know if you wanted to read that or you want me to read it.
Yeah, he posted, this is a, like you said, this was Glenn Greenwald's direct statement that he posted on X. He says, last night, videos were released online depicting behavior in my private life. Some were distorted and others were not. They were published without my knowledge or consent, and its publication was therefore criminal. Though we do not yet know exactly who is responsible, we are close to knowing, and the motive was a maliciously political one. As for the context of the videos, I have no embarrassment or regret about them. The videos depict consenting adults engaged in intimate actions in their private lives. They all display fully consensual behavior, harming nobody. Obviously, it can be uncomfortable and pleasant when your private behavior is made public against your will. That's why the behavior is private in the first place. But the only wrongdoing here is the criminal and malicious publication of the videos in an attempt to malign perceived political enemies and advance a political agenda. Others are, of course, free to form their own judgments, as some are prone to do about others' private lives. Excuse me. It won't change my work. I will continue all the many prongs in my journalism and pursue the causes most important to me exactly as before. So, in summary, he's saying that this is, he's not even embarrassed. He's kind of out here saying that it's just a shame and it's criminal, and that it's not going to stop him from doing anything. It's not going to change anything, as his daily life goes on. So, I mean, good for him as far as that goes.
Right.
Points out the only wrongdoing here is the criminal malicious publication of the videos. It's funny because I do find it just a little bit hypocritical in the statement. Where was it? I have no embarrassment or regret. The videos depict consenting, engaging. Where's it at? Oh yeah, that's why the behavior is private in the first place. Well, if it's private, maybe don't film it. I don't know. You know what I mean? It's not like this was surveillance video footage or something like that that was like filmed maliciously. It seems like his dirty tape got out. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, yeah, you want to try to keep those things private, but at the same time, like when you film things like that, you're opening yourself up to that potential possibility. And we see these, revenge, P situations. I know YouTube doesn't like some words, so you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Those revenge, yeah, there you go, Evil Elmo. You see those type of situations sometimes, and they're criminal. But this doesn't even seem like that. This seems like somebody just hacked a phone maybe and dropped the the video, the file somewhere, you know what I mean? And then it got posted. Thankfully for me, I don't know what it is, but whenever these things come out, they never hit my timeline. So I think I do a good job of maybe avoiding all the nakedness on X for the work purposes and everything else. Specifically, though, when I'm on X, I don't want anything popping up live and ruining everything. So I try to make sure I block even the inadvertent things or whatever. But yeah, I'm glad that these things stay off my feed. But apparently, it was all over
Yeah,
it yesterday,
you
last
were
night.
lucky because when I got
Yeah.
on X, was it either yesterday at some point? Maybe it was 2 nights ago in the middle of the night, right after I posted the video that took off. It was like three posts in a row, like quote posts of the whole video. It's like 3 minutes long in a row. Like I had it like open and was like looking at the TV because I was like watching the video on the big screen and like don't even realize like what was on my phone. And like I looked down, dude, this is insane. Like this is aggressive. Um, I mean, with that though, I mean, there's clearly like, you get this like visceral reaction from people, right? Like obviously you see something like that level of degenerate, it's hard to not to say something. Um, but that's why I included a bunch of different reactions here because I was like wanting to set the stage here. And again, people seemingly just have a hard time understanding the difference between me saying here's a thing that's happening, like the objective of like here's what people are saying versus me not saying that's what I believe. Looks like TNT's. I'm not saying it's anybody by any means. I'm just saying there are clearly two different factions. There are people who are saying this was what they think is happening.
I was
um
gonna say, I don't even know if either of us even try to tie it to that scenario because personally, I don't know what to think. I watched a video of Luke trying to break it down earlier today, and he's talking about
yeah,
being spied on and a person that's just even like you and I or what maybe we aspire to be. That there's levels of spying and I guess maybe espionage that might want to try to get control of things like videos like this or whatever to maybe influence us or whatnot. And I don't know.
right.
I guess it was a big deal, and like I said, it's worth talking about just because um, there might be levels to this. As far as like, I'm interested in what are they trying to hide or what are they trying to silence him from, right? Like, we know he was about to go on Tucker Carlson, and it might have actually even been filmed already, but the video was supposed to come out the next day with him and Tucker, which I believe I believe that video actually did come out either today or yesterday, that interview. So I don't
Yeah,
know, like it seems like some type of attempt of something. It obviously doesn't appear to be working on Glenn. And by the way, Fazimo, thanks for subbing. It's great to have you here as a part of the community and everything like that.
yeah. What is
Um,
that, Fatima?
yeah,
Oh,
for
and
sure.
King Sillowing's in here too. Perfect timing.
Yeah, what up, King? So like part of this story just turns me off because it's like reminds me of the Scott Pressler picture of him against the wall or whatever with his boyfriend or whatever, you know what I mean, that they posted. And it's just like, I don't know why do I care about this? But with this particular
Yeah.
story with Glenn Greenwald, I think there is a layer of control that's at least worth talking about. You know what I mean? At least worth addressing. So,
Right. Yeah.
and
Well,
then
that's
and
the
then
thing,
like
right? Like, isn't that a
like you
wild?
said,
Well, isn't that hypocritical, right? Like, I don't want to see the video. That's very disgusting. I don't like that. And then on the same hand, be like, well, and then I don't care about it. I don't understand what people are caring about. Right? It's like seems kind of ironic. Point being, I think the reason why most people are bringing it up is because the contents of the video were so disgustingly like degenerate that it's hard to say it's not satanic. You see like a little battle happening between Andrew Wilson and Clint Russell on this issue, right? Which I think is ironic because again, Clint Russell quoted Andrew Wilson, right? And Clint Russell, libertarian. Andrew Wilson, Christian nationalist, Christian populist. Why does Clint Russell and other libertarians think that Christian nationalists won't have something negative to say about it? Right? Doesn't that seem like insane? Like we're not on the same team, right? Like we're on the same team in terms of like we're both against the left, but our end goal solutions aren't the same, right?
yeah,
And so that's what like I don't understand about this. People are getting irritated. And it goes back to like that unifying stuff, right? Like merging all of MAGA into one group, like we're all supposed to have these same ideals. It's like we're a big camp. That's faction, right? You have MAGA, you have old Bernie bros that don't like the left that are here. You have all these different groups.
Oh yeah.
And so that's what, again, that gets me the most, that bothers me the most is the reason why the right wing has so many good pundits in it is because we're willing to sit down and disagree and talk about our debates. That's what
Sure.
separates us from what the left is, right? With the left being a monolith. They all believe and agree in the same thing. That's they all, don't step out of line from what the big thing is. It's like, I don't want to be the left, dude. Never have, never wanted to, never will be. Not a hive
Yeah.
mind. And so that's the point, right? It's like on one hand, everyone goes, wow, this is probably the most disgusting thing I've ever seen in the last 5 years. And then on the other hand, go, well, people who care about it, why are you being obsessed? It's like you're doing what the left was doing previously with like JD Vance. It
Mhm.
is trying to paint someone as weird, and it's like that is the weakest argument of all time. It's actually showing that you have no substance. Your argument is simply don't care about it because I don't think you should care about it, which isn't a good justification. Um, which is why I think you're going to see some of this start blowing up a little bit too. But that's like the side element to it. I think if you go to like the actual podcast that was released like hours after that leak footage happened, the majority of that podcast, at least the first hour and a half, revolves around foreign assets, foreign influence, as well as the Epstein and Glenn Greenwald's like take on Cash Patel and Dan Bongino, which the easy implication there would be somebody released this video in an attempt to get Glenn to shut up. Or more, what I would assume, and I kind of agree with Owen Schroyer on this, where he doesn't think it's maybe part of like a international blackmail ring, but maybe more so that somebody personally like close to him, knowing of these events and how he behaves with his husband, hacked them and posted it because they themselves were irritated that Glenn was going to say this. That it would be like maybe a private, more of a, on an
Oh,
individual level, a personal level. Somebody wanted
sure.
to, humiliate Glenn for a
Yeah.
specific reason, hence like the revenge point there.
No,
Um,
that makes sense. That makes sense. TNT clarified a little bit. He says it has been released as a sex tape just to get talked about, and here we are saying the infamous they is out to shut him up. It's just ridiculous. Oh yeah, I get that. I totally understand that take. That's not where I was coming from.
yeah,
But yeah, I get how I get where you're coming from on that. I mean, I think Glenn has done, recently. I think he was on Pierce Morgan maybe a couple weeks ago now. Maybe it was even longer than that. And he had a good segment. Haven't seen much from him, but he has had some significance in the past pertaining to like exposing some of the spying that the government was doing and whatnot. So I mean,
right.
um,
Well, that's I also agree with Fazimo, where ICE did see multiple little screenshots and videos of screen recordings where for a short period of time, for like 2 minutes, Glenn Greenwald had reposted that video from whatever anonymous account did it onto his main page, which is again, that's not that mentioned at all in the statement there in the letter. So I mean, I'm still of the camp where this might have been exactly what somebody said here earlier, like OnlyFans like publication, right?
Elmo, I put it on the screen right there. Maybe it's a
Yeah,
publicity stunt for his new OnlyFans page.
right. It's
Don't
really
know if
hard
he
to
has
make up.
one. Probably doesn't, but
Yeah,
yeah, you can't put it past anybody. When it comes to this, we're gonna side note just for a second because we got this comment from Fozimo. It says interested in the Titan debate. He's a big donator over at the Daily Cope. That has to do with you and Titan trying to reach out in the comment section over there, right? On the one video, or
yes. So the Millionaire Bachelor is a decently sized account on YouTube. I think he's a little just over 10,000 subscribers. Titan commented he was disagreeing uh, over it was a older, fresh and fit clip that I believe was featuring Fuentes and like 6 black females. The discussion I think revolved around black accountability versus white accountability. Um, Titan commented on that guy's page. The guy saw it and said, "Hey, I'd bring you on to debate." I think Titan declined, but said, "I'll see if I have someone else in my camp would do it." I saw the comment. I replied, gave him my X handle, but I have not been contacted by anybody so far. So
dang.
we'll see what happens with that. Maybe they saw my page and said, "I'm terrified." Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. Would love to have that. Would love to host that on the show. That's for sure. So, um, yeah, I wanted to just bring that up because that is a bit of brewing drama, and I'm glad that Fozimo brought that up. Hopefully, we can get that that debate to happen.
Yeah.
Somehow live or even recorded, you know, something like that. But
Right.
we're still new to this whole thing, so you know what I mean. Getting things set up and contacts made like that is all new for us. But we'll do our best to try to make it happen, man.
Yeah, you know, funny enough, after that happened is obviously when the newer video of mine starts taking off and the big account. I almost with Rosalind, I almost debated. We can talk about it on your show if you want, but I was like, man, I don't know if the first debate I should do should be in an audience in front of like 1 million subscribers, right? You know, I know that sounds cowardly, but I was like, I also don't want to put it in a way where, you know, I draw upon a bunch of negative press that early on. But we'll see.
Well, I
I'd still do it,
remember,
but you know, if Rosalind wanted to debate, I'd do it. I'd go on the show and do it.
yeah. Well, I remember the first time Black Conservative Perspective decided he was going to debate, and he went on Mark Lamont Hill's show, and he just was
Yeah.
not prepared, and Mark Lamont Hill just got him. You know what I mean? Like it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just got to take your L's, right? And Black Conservative Perspective did, and he came back, he licked his wounds and said, Greg's his name. I should call him Greg. He,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I guess people know him as Black Conservative Perspective channel, but he came back, he licked his wounds, said, I should have done better. I should have prepped. I'll do better next time. You know what I mean? And moved on like a man does. But yeah, you know what I mean? So you're not gonna hit him out of the park on the first try every time. That's for sure. Or,
Right.
you know, even on a high average, will you be successful on your first try? So
Exactly. Like I want an easy one. Like I want that girl that Andrew Wilson just debated who left mid-show. Like I want to debate somebody like that. Give me an easy one to start.
right. So let's get back to the Glenn Greenwald thing. We got some of the reactions here from people that we can share.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start with this one from Ian Carroll. The Glenn Greenwald scandal just proves the point. Israel's modern image is built on blackmail. And I got to tell you, Ian Carroll started off so like on fire, and now it's just everything is anti-Israel. It almost seems like that I see from him lately, and his little partnership with Candace is just
Yeah.
meh to me. I don't know why, but it's just you know, reeks
Right.
of something. Reeks of something. I don't know if I smell a rat or what, but something.
Well, isn't it? Well, to me, I guess it's the only thing that's treated that way, right? Like when someone brings on a Second Amendment expert, no one goes, man, dude, this guy's just obsessed with guns. When someone brings on a legal expert, nobody goes, man, this guy's just obsessed with laws. You know, when somebody brings on a drug, you know, or a martial arts expert, or you know, some people just have different fortes, right? Like they're just like that's like they're kind of their zone. They talk about it. Same thing with like Scott Horton and Jeffrey Sachs. Those
Sure.
guys' forte is like
Yeah,
international,
master an area. Yeah, I totally
right?
get that.
But
Master
they're also,
subject.
you know, they're thrown in that camp, right? Where like all you do is talk about Israel. It's like, I mean, or you just not getting the fact that there is like this is my specialty, and it just so happens that Israel is involved in a bunch of things. So your course, you're going to hear them, you know, very
Right.
often. And then and vice versa too. I thought there was a great point made by can't remember who said it, but like individuals like Tim Pool and others, right? Where they talk about Israel just as much, but it's from the pro position, so they don't get the same kind of criticism.
Right.
So it's like a kind of like a unique kind of anomaly there, which I do think, you know, it's kind of maybe more
Well,
a broader statement on at large.
one thing that I've come to understand is if you're gonna have folks on, or folks are gonna be talking negative about that scenario, that region, Ben Shapiro's favorite country, you have to have somebody else that pushes back against those concepts in order to even have like the first ones brought up and let slide by the powers that be. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, you got to have that pushback. When you have the solid pushback on any of these like controversial things, then they let them slide a little bit more. Something I've just recently kind of discovered or whatever. But and so that's why I think you see Tim Pool push back a little bit sometimes on things that it's like definitely disagree with, or you think that he might even disagree with, just because it's kind of just the game that you got to play. But
Yeah. Well, I think
just to bring that up as a side note a little bit. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, and going with your point, I think if anybody was to be involved with any of these, or they've been in these kind of further right forums and blogs, they view people like Dave Smith, Ian Carroll, Jeffrey Sachs,
Oh yeah.
and even Glenn Greenwald as controlled opposition. Like, so if you've ever been around actual anti-Semites, you would know that they hate people like Ian Carroll because they think Ian Carroll doesn't talk about Jews enough, which is this crazy like ideal where like other people see Ian Carroll and they throw him in that camp. Well, if you know that camp doesn't want Ian Carroll with them. So it's a crazy like, right?
Yeah.
It's just this crazy convoluted, just like, information, economy. It's a wild thing to behold.
Right. Donnie says you never see pro-Israel people get accused about being obsessed with Israel. What's funny is Tim Pool actually just recently started calling that Israel derangement syndrome, I believe. Maybe I might be misrepresenting his description of it, but I think that's what he's been calling Israel derangement syndrome lately. The people that are obsessed. But anyways.
Yeah, his like satirical definition. But no, going back to the Glenn Greenwald thing, right? So this is Ian Carroll, kind of representative of the faction that does believe this is the latest event in a long history of blackmail operations that have been in their definition have been getting carried out by foreign influencers, foreign actors. And beyond Ian Carroll, though, what I also included was the specific clips of it. There's a longer one and a shorter one, but we can probably just watch the shorter one from Suleiman Ahmed, which hones in on what Ian is saying because this defined a good majority of what him and Tucker talked about on their podcast.
Right here, and it just leads in. It says Glenn Greenwald said to Tucker Carlson that Israel and Mossad are spying on American citizens. They also control the CIA and government. Then Israel leaks a video of Glenn Greenwald where, that's just one man's opinion, I'll just say, but let's have a listen.
One of the set of files we released described the intelligence relationship that we have with Israel, that the NSA has with Israel. Israel is the number one recipient of NSA technology and NSA intelligence. We share more with Israel, even more than we do with the Five Eyes partners who develop this technology. We give more to Israel, more intelligence, raw intelligence about Americans as well, and more intelligence know-how. But at the same time, the documents that describe who are our greatest intelligence threats, who are our greatest intelligence adversaries, who spies on us the most, who is capable of spying out the most, number one on the list is Israel as well. Obviously, the Israelis use, the most dangerous spying programs like Pegasus and others come from Israel, are developed by Israel, are controlled by the Israelis, by which I simply mean to say that Israel uses every weapon at its disposal, including gathering incriminating information about its enemies.
So, what are your thoughts?
And that was the running theme of their conversation. And this actually led into the conversation about Dan Bongino and Kash Patel, which they more so, broadly talked about the idea that, these were kind of the two most respected guys on the right. He even pointed out like Dan Bongino, like the numbers he was doing on Rumble compared to other people who were not even nearly half as successful on YouTube. And he was willing to leave that, right? So these guys have all these big, trust factors. And they just basically talk how all of that literally disappeared like that over the Epstein issue. And so that's kind of like where the conversation was going. But again, all of it being with Tucker kind of questioning on the lines of, so why haven't we gotten answers about that? And also the conversation about, wouldn't we have at this point a definite answer of yes or no of Epstein being involved in foreign intelligence or not? Because if he wasn't, it'd be pretty easy to say, no, he wasn't. This is a domestic issue. He was tied to Fortune 500 guys. Because again, anyone even halfway familiar with the Epstein case and all knows that the whole thing from top to bottom stinks. I mean, we even go to the very foundation of it, right? Whereas money is one of the most mysterious things. Where did he get all this money? How was he financed? It makes no sense. He got a home for $1. All of these things, even from the very beginning, all the way through, loaded with a bunch of stuff. And the thing is like, this has clearly been the running theme of the last, I would say, 2 years, right? 2 straight years, this conversation is not going away. And we're finding more and more kind of coincidences and through lines of like connections here and here. And, I tie that all in and, maybe on a side note too, another conversation happening is about the Epstein and Cash Patel release, because we now went from the cameras are malfunctioning to we moved to, oh, we do have footage that confirms Epstein did actually, do that to himself, and which is complete on the opposite end of what we have been known or come to understand for the past 4 or 5 years. And it comes on the tail end of Google VO3 being dropped, which is now in 60 seconds, you can produce a really good video of 8 seconds.
Yeah.
And you
But
pair
they're
that
letting
knowledge,
people do 2 8-second videos a day, I think is what the cap is right now.
what you're allowed to do. And then pair that with the idea that running idea that we've had for some time, that the military and Area 51 and the deepest intelligence agencies of our country probably do have technology that's years ahead of where we're at currently. So if you see what Google VO3 is doing now that's available to the public, well, imagine what they can do on the professional end with some app that they maybe were working on that's not publicly available anywhere. And I think for the most part, to wrap that all together, even if they did release video, it's now been so long. And with the advances with AI video, people are going to look at that and they say, nope, you definitely generated that somewhere and spent years making it look perfect. They're not going to believe it. And the trust is gone, right? It's like we're at this point, even if the documents were there, I think many people in this chat said, like, how could you even trust what's there? Because it's been exchanging hands for so long, no idea of
Right.
chain of custody. And you pair that even all together with the fact that nobody trusts the government at all. So it's like, what level of conclusive answers would we ever get, even if it was right in front of our faces? It's hard to tell. It's like I don't even have the answer to that, right? I think at this point, everyone's just gonna have to go with their best gut feeling on it. But again, moving away from that secondarily, you do have that one there from Homath, because I wanted
Yeah.
to include a lot of the broader reactions of what people had seen of this instance, especially those who probably saw a lot more of the video than people would like to have seen. And I think these are some great takes. And so I point to Homath, someone who's been rising, is a very prominent rising content creator of the last few years, largely from a lot of his crayon comic sketches about women and the dating market, and kind of doing really well to visualize that for people who are trying to understand it. But this was his take on the video. I don't know if you wanted me to read it, if you wanted to read it.
I can read it. He posted, if I ever know anyone who did what Glenn Greenwald did, I would never speak to or listen to that person again. That would indicate to me this person is not okay at the core and cannot be trusted. Sexuality is at the core of everything you are. There is no, quote, I only do that separately from the rest of my life, end quote. Sex is who you are when you are the most, sex is who you are when you are the most you that you ever get to be. I think they added a couple of words in there. When you are the most that you ever get to be. Maybe is what it meant to mean, but
Yeah. And so, and here's the thing that I would say too. Like, I agree with the sentiment here that Homath has put forward. But at the same time, do I think that that prevents somebody from being able to be a good journalist? No, because
well,
I
I
think
think
we already have a prior example with Milo. I think that that does call into question, though, their value judgments as it pertains to like families, right? Or
yeah,
as it pertains to maybe more social issues. Because I mean, I do agree, right? Like, take the name away from it, right? Take the name away. You never seen this person before, and someone shows you a video of your coworker, right? Say it's Bob, and you work with him on the line, assembly line, and the video releases of him kissing a black guy's feet, and he was asking to be spanked and punish me, and I will worship your blackness, and he's like doing all these weird things. I mean, like, you would be lying to yourself if you're telling me you wouldn't look at them differently, and especially as a Christian, because as a Christian, in that moment, you should go, this guy is under some dark influences. Like, how do I help this guy? And I think anyone who says otherwise is like, you mean you're lying to yourself? If someone, same thing, then I view it. I view this the same way. If someone showed you a video and they got away with murder, I'd look at them differently. I'd be like, oh my gosh, like, I didn't know you had this in you. Like, that's crazy. Um, but to say, does that stretch to journalistic integrity? I don't know. I've been wrestling with that question since the stories dropped. I really don't know. I think it does call some level of what they say into question. Like, I'm definitely not going to be looking to Glenn to tell me like how family structure should be, obviously.
right.
But as it pertains to like, would that have an impact on how you would report on, you know, international news, I don't know. Like, I don't have an answer, honestly.
Right. TNT asked, "What has Glenn done?" And I have one thing that he's a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist known for exposing government surveillance. So I'm not sure the time frame on that. It might have to do with Edward Snowden. I think it does,
I believe
actually.
so. Yeah, I mean, you
Um,
even had James O'Keefe came out and said, "I'm not going to let this story." James O'Keefe, who I would consider as probably the greatest independent reporter, journalist, investigative journalist of our maybe last 6, 7 years, at least in terms of overall impact. Um, if he's out here saying that Glenn Greenwald is one of the best journalists in his opinion, I mean, how much weight does that hold to you? I'm not too all entirely familiar with Glenn Greenwald myself. I am up as like
yeah,
most recent couple years reporting, but not his whole history. But seems like that's good praise from one of the greats, right? And so, like, I guess what do you do with them?
yeah,
And that's yeah, and I'll get to that, Fazimo. I do have a section here as it pertains to children because I do think that is a secondary aspect that needs to get talked about as well. Because it's not like because I know somebody said, well, as long as it doesn't hurt the children, well, it's like I mean, this is another one of these cases where this
mm,
family, they did adopt children out of Brazil, both boys. It follows the same pattern of Dave Rubin. It follows the same pattern of Pete Buttigieg. I mean, all of them down the line, all of those ones that we kind of cringe where you watch a woman have a surrogacy, or even the de-adoption. You leaves a bad taste in your mouth, especially for me. As a Christian, I do believe that children should be raised with a father and a mother. I do think it is
oh yeah,
very damaging to the child to take away one of those, aspects, very important and I would argue necessary aspects for a child to grow up the way as God intended. And that's a pretty easy line to measure things by, right? Do you think God intended for Glenn to act this way? The answer is no. Same thing goes for the children.
right. So the next response we have here is from Clint Russell. He said, "About a decade before you got famous by dunking on e-girls." Oh wait, well this was a response from a post that Andrew Wilson posted, where he said, "Why are conservative pundits supporting Greenwald? The right isn't supposed to cozy up to the homosexual, and especially not the homosexuals who lobby for gay adoption." Then Clint Russell, who is a libertarian, says, "About a decade before he got famous by dunking on e-girls, Glenn Greenwald was risking his life to disclose the largest domestic spying operation in American history. If you want to bury him because he's gay, fine. I will not." So, I mean, look, I get it. He did something great. He put his life on the line, but that doesn't, a career make, right? I mean, it's just one thing. Yeah, it was a big thing or whatever, but I don't know. It's like it's the poop in the speck of poop in the bowl of ice cream theory. You know what I mean? As soon as that speck of poop gets in the ice cream, the whole thing is ruined. And so you have to maintain. It kind of applies at least. You know what I mean? Like Glenn has done some good stuff, apparently, but that doesn't mean everything that he does is good or everything that he does is right and everything that he thinks is proper. Andrew Wilson also posted, "I just sort of realized at this point, I may be the only last sane man who exists. Glenn Greenwald was caught in a schoolgirl outfit licking man's feet and has a history of producing gay porn. That is sick and satanic behavior, yet cons are standing by him." And yeah, I see you commented. I just don't buy that people don't care about what they saw. Something that the level of degenerate is impossible to brush under the rug, and to act like it has zero effect on who Glenn is as a person is just denial. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah, because I agree with home math, especially as it pertains to the psychology of what it does. And I did see the comment in there from Cash Christian. Don't worry, we'll talk about Palantir. That'll be the next story once we move past this one.
yeah.
And then I figured, who better to bring into the conversation than the former who knows? I feel like I see conflicting things about him all the time. But supposedly, you know, the former homosexual far right winger himself, Milo, because this one really got me. You know, Glenn's husband, who appears to have died of complication from butt to mouth stuff, was a porn director. Can you even fathom how much worse these videos get? And you imbecile shut-ins actually believe this tame by homo standards video is Zionist propaganda, or he says compromat, which is just blackmail. Um, and the thing with that too is, again, I think he's got a couple points there, and I think the first one is insane, but also can't be understated, which is the fact that there are egregious health complications with the homosexual lifestyle. You know, you can go to, I mean, we joked about monkeypox, right, when it hit California, but that
Mhm.
again was largely brought about because of a pride parade that happened between Spain and Belgium, where the disease originated and spread out because homosexuals participate in hookup culture. They're much less likely to be monogamous, so they have a lot more partners. Things spread like that. You go to HIV as well, and then one thing that really blew the doors off my hinges was the fact that when I looked at life expectancy, homosexual men have a 20-year shorter life expectancy than straight men. That cannot be understated. I mean, that is a massive
Yeah.
difference there. And in more specific terms, yes, Glenn's husband, who I believe he met in Brazil, did die of some extreme complication that can really only be explained from very perverse sexual behavior, which again is devastating. But you know, the second point that he makes there too, which is like he's saying that he thinks this is tame by homosexual standards, which is to go and say that road probably gets so much more dark and so much more perverse and degenerate, which again is just, it's an awful thing to think about. But like Andrew Wilson, does that warrant then that you immediately cut this person out, right? Do you immediately shun this person? Now, one thing I will say is I don't think Glenn has ever kind of frontly positioned himself as a right winger. I think it's more so been he's aligned with the right wing when he goes against certain things. Um, for example, like, you know, he's anti-Israel, right? So he gets brought on with people who share that sentiment on the right wing. He's very open, especially with his involvement with Edward Snowden. He's very, very
Mhm.
anti anything that would go against First Amendment or would be overreach as it pertains to free speech. So he's obviously goes with a lot of right wingers there. At least to me, I don't. I've never seen him push himself out as a front facing conservative. So does it have as much weight when Andrew Wilson says and cons are supporting this guy? I do think there's a difference between being like, okay, here's the work of this person. That's one thing versus do I endorse their lifestyle? Which I think is a different way, right? You could say one way where you go, hey, I really appreciate Glenn's work. I wish he would repent. He obviously lives a sinful lifestyle. That's it, right? That's one way. Or the what most people are saying is, I don't care about what I saw. I like Glenn, which is a positive statement to say that, in lack of better terms, what he's doing doesn't have any kind of importance or pertinence to the situation, which I think again is a little ignorant given the kind of like level of intensity of the situation there. Um, but I did bring in other like takes too, which I thought were unique, because the story was obviously massive. You know, revenge porn from a major, you know, journalist in the space. So there were two different ones. You have the one from Josiah Lippincott, which is pretty aggressive, but you also have one from this girl, Stephanie Tyler. Um, but whichever one you wanted to go to first, they're both kind of different, but they do offer kind of insight from people who aren't kind of in the political environment. Their takes on seeing something like that. So I
Okay.
don't know if you
Well,
want to read it. I can read it.
I'll read this one from Joseph or Josiah Lippincott. Re the Glenn Greenwald video, one of the most laughably absurd lies to come out of the gay marriage push that was that homosexuals, quote, are just like us, but with dudes, end quote. Modern Family and its consequences. I remember a normie buddy of mine expressing shock at his gay friend casually mentioning he'd had 500 sexual partners. I'm going to cut in right here and interject and just say I've heard Steven Crowder talk to his like gay counterparts that he has on sometimes, and they'll start talking about how the gay dudes will get in like fist fights with each other and stuff like that. So like even more like domestic violence and other things as well. Like the relationships are just much more I don't know, toxic, dangerous.
Yeah.
I don't know what you want to call it, right? But anyways,
Yeah.
continuing, I just wanted to add that little caveat. I don't know why, but continuing says, I had to laugh. Like, what did you think the gays got up to? How can anyone really think homosexuality is fundamentally about LARPing like a middle-class family man in the 1950s? Homosexuality necessarily embraces otherization. It is a manifestation of the longing to escape the structures of vanilla heterosexuality and the constraints of normal society, religion, patriarchy, etc. This is why homosexual expression is so decisively associated with subversion, dominance, submission, fetish, orgies, and anonymous sexual encounters. The homosexual wishes to push up to the boundary of the disgust instinct and then beyond it. There is zero connection beyond homosexual acts in anything life-giving. The generation of children has literally nothing to do at any level with gay sexuality. Acting, therefore, like the norms of heterosexuality have anything to do with gay relationships is simply propaganda, wish casting, or naivete. This isn't even a moral take, by the way. I'm simply noting a sociological reality that should be obvious to anyone paying attention to the world around them. End quote there by old Josiah Lippincott. So yeah, just basically, well, you let me know what your take is here.
Yes, I'll pair this with what Fosimo said as well too, and I'm going to actually tie this back into the Hunter Biden laptop scandal. Seemed everybody was well and alive and concerned about the actions they were seeing from Hunter Biden in those videos, but for whatever reason, the line stops with Glenn Greenwald. This is where I go back to the principle thing. In the cult of personality, just because somebody's on your side or you like what they say shouldn't be the thing that stops you from holding them to the same fire you are willing to hold your enemies to. Because again, that's just like that's, in a smaller sense, kind of like nepotism, right? You're changing your rules and your judgments based on who they are and how close they are to you. And again, with Lippincott there, he's going a lot harder at the homosexual agenda than pretty much everything we've seen so far. But really to kind of make a statement that, even outside of even if you were to remove like the Christian framework out of something, and he's looking at it from a secular framework, kind of more similar to how Tim Pool views things, right? Just kind of positive versus negative, right? Positive builds things, destruction destroys things. And that little quote there, right? Nothing about the homosexual lifestyle is life-giving. Kind of also a point that nothing that they can do can create life. And in fact, all of their actions, if it has all of these higher instances of unhealthy kind of tag-alongs, right? Like higher chances for diseases. The lifestyle just has all these kind of things that pertains to warts. Your little lifestyle can, well, your life expectancy can be shortened by a massive amount of years, more so than like cigarettes could, right? Which is a crazy kind of just kind of concept there. And I say all that to say, like, this is where the rubber meets the road, I believe, with the Christian community. You're given all these opportunities on silver platters to say Christ is king. Wish you well, Glenn, but please repent of this lifestyle. And on top of that, too, Cosmo did bring a good point up as well that I've not seen many people talk about, but there does appear to be, and maybe many people aren't seeing it just because it's towards the end of the video, because it was very grotesque video to make it through. There is a crack pipe, or what seems to be a crack pipe on the mattress next to them, next to his laptop that he later does get sit on the bed next to, and it gets closer into frame. So there are other questions there too. I think once again, right, if we're willing to make fun of Hunter Biden for being a crackhead who doesn't make good choices, I think the same kind of framing can be applied to Glenn Greenwald. But I think the one that really was the take that I saw coming from nowhere was the one from Stephanie Tyler. Because she even says, like, I'm so torn as she's going through this, but she kind of tells this gut kind of reaction she has to such kind of content. But I thought it was another great take on it.
And she says, I'm so torn over this Glenn Greenwald stuff. On one hand, I genuinely believe in personal liberty and privacy. Consenting adults should be able to do whatever they want, period. No victim, case closed. But on the other hand, something in me short circuits when I see behavior that that unhinged and try to pretend it has zero bearing on someone's mental model and worldview. Like, I want to believe you, or I want to believe that you can be a brilliant, high-functioning journalist and also get filmed licking another man's feet while wearing a maid costume. But somewhere deep in my gut, I just don't buy it. Man, the more I'm reading about this video, I'm just so glad it didn't come across my feed. Not that I would have sat there and watched it, but,
Right.
you know, I mean, good grief, right? But not because I care about the kink itself, but because it suggests a way of relating to the world that feels off. Because what you do in private still reveals what you believe about control, hierarchy, selfhood, reality, and that belief system doesn't just disappear when you sit down to do journalist things. The question isn't, is this morally wrong? It's, how does a mind justify this to itself? And what else might that same logic excuse? It's not about kink shaming, it's about pattern recognition. Because at a certain point, the architecture of a person's private compulsions has to leak into how they process truth, power, boundaries, and meaning. When someone's private behavior looks like a direct collision, when someone's private behavior looks like a direct collision with their public values, I start to question the coordinates. And for some reason, no one really wants to say that out loud, but I can't stop thinking about it. Yeah. I mean, you know, they kind of, what's that saying? Like, once somebody gets drunk, they actually really speak their heart. We kind of,
Right.
we carry at all times this, like, this filter. So, I mean, the filter is good. It's just worth exploring where a person comes from, I guess, in their heart of hearts, like what they do when nobody, you know, the decisions they make is kind of like who they are as a person, the choices and the things they do when nobody's looking, versus what
Right.
when everybody is looking out on the world stage.
Yeah, and I mean they've even done studies on this as well. And you know, House or whoever can correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm trying to remember the framing of it. But from what I understand, they had a control group of young men, and they showed them images of, I don't know how graphic they were, but I believe it was just images of homosexual relations. Right? It might have been like two men kissing. It might have been more than that. I don't think it would have been. I think it was two men kissing. But they were like measuring their brain waves and watching their brain activity with the electrical activity in there. And these men who witnessed two gay kissing versus a bunch of maggots in a rotting carcass, their brain had a stronger negative reaction to the two men kissing than the carcass that was loaded with maggots.
Yeah.
You know, and I think what she's really
Well,
getting at
maggots are just
is
chicken food, free chicken food in my perspective. So,
right. And I'll refer to, you know, Corey Muller, right? And he says this often, and it goes along the lines of like Stephen Wolfe and natural law, which is, you know, God wrote two books. You have the Bible and you have nature. And a lot of things we can discover in nature, you know, as it contains the beauty of God and creation. To go back to what she says, which is, I can't shake this gut feeling. And I think that goes to a base level of what we see, maybe more complex in other areas where people will tell you over certain stories and certain things, don't believe your lying eyes. I view this to be the same, which
mhm,
is that deep, like that feeling you have when you see it, where you go, this is wrong. Like something's wrong here. And you just know it, right? The intuition that comes from that gut feeling where you're like, yeah, something's not right here. When you have that compared to these relations, I think all in all, going back to the book of nature of God, I think is God's way of giving you that kind of insight of this is wrong. Like you know this is wrong. And this is your body giving
right,
you a bajillion signals to your brain. That's wrong, right? Even just from witnessing it. And then
right,
she goes to the next level, right? Which is, how does somebody even get to the mindset of they're justifying these actions that are extremely humiliating, and then even more so in the male perspective of like being you know, being dominated, you know, for lack of better words, right? It's
right.
just like there's a lot of like very kind of, you know, psychoanalysis you could do to somebody, you know, bamboozle, right, from Jordan Peterson. But I think there is a statement to be made there of like, you know, back to home math. The most you will ever be is when you are free and alive, like in the marital bedroom, or at least how it should be. And so to see that, and you know, in other perverse scenarios, I think is pretty telling.
Right. But this is funny. TNT mentions here that I think what's bothering me the most is how many people seem to have watched it They're like it. 43 minutes and 12 seconds. There's a rubber on the table.
Yeah.
And then Posimo, he follows up and says, the people examining the Destiny BJ video determined if the dick was Nick Fuentes' was more deranged, right?
I forgot that even happened. That's funny.
It's so funny. That's actually what kind of reminded me of those two stories. I don't know why, but
Yeah.
it's really funny. Cracking me up. So
Yeah.
I guess to round this out, we have Joel Webbin posted, nope, no gays allowed, period. That was in response to a post that the Misfit Patriot put out saying woke right, quote, no gays allowed except for Kanye, who rapped about blowing his cousin, or Glenn Greenwald, who posted a fresh fetish video of himself. Not fresh. Why did I say fresh? A weird fetish video. I was like, fresh fetish video. That's gross. Of himself.
Let me know how you feel about it.
It was fresh. It's hot and fresh.
Right.
Oh my goodness. Not helping my case with my mock E. No, basically
Right.
you can have sex
Right.
with dudes as long as you hate the
Not beating allegations, you said.
right. So Joe Webbin just basically saying nope. And then what do we got here? This final round this one out. This was Dr. Cimmerian Herbert. No weird
put it back
name.
on the screen.
Oh yeah, I didn't put it on screen. My bad. Adopted a male. What is this? You added this. I don't know what I'm looking at.
Yes. Yeah. So this is like the referring to the children, right? This is like the running theme, right? Dennis O'Hare adopted a male. Rylan Adams adopted a male. Shane Dawson adopted a male. Pete Buttigieg adopted a male. Dave Rubin, like, Glenn Greenwald's just like the latest one in that series, right? This running line of like, here we are once again, knowing what that these people do in their private lives, and then also knowing that they have children or went out of their way to adopt them, and bring them into that lifestyle. Again, something that we obviously don't want to be pushing for.
Right. Yeah, I'm with you. Just me. Just wanted to finish out the outline on that one. So yeah, let's move on. Enough Glenn Greenwald gay stuff, right?
Right.
Enough with the gay stuff.
Yes.
And YouTube shut us down. No, so let's move on here to this Palantir database of Americans. Now, I watched a video from Luke Rudkowski. I think it was Luke actually talking about this a little bit. And he pointed out that the Palantir is the all-seeing eye in the Lord of the Rings, which I didn't know that. I mean, I got a Gandalf sword there on the wall, but I didn't know that part of it, right? And so that's just an interesting, choice of names. And so let me actually put this on the screen. And we'll kind of learn about this all at the same time. Oh, I didn't put the right one. My bad. If that's the same one I already had up there. So just a thought posted, stop paying attention to Glenn Greenwald in a skirt and start paying attention to Palantir. Glenn Greenwald. Say that like 3 or 4 times really fast to yourself. It's a tongue twister to me. But they posted these couple images here. Trump taps Palantir to compile data on Americans. The Trump administration has expanded Palantir's work with the government, spreading the company's technology, which could easily merge data on Americans throughout agencies. Okay. Also included this Bloomberg article, Teal Plant Palantir. Israel agrees strategic partnership for battle tech. U.S. company will provide services for war-related missions. Agreement follows co-founders' visit to Israel this week. Palantir Technologies, the data analysis firm that provides militaries with artificial intelligence models, has agreed to a strategic partnership with the Israeli Defense Ministry to supply technology to help the country's war effort. The agreement followed a Thursday meeting between Israeli defense officials and Palantir co-founders Peter Thiel and Alex Karp in Tel Aviv, according to Executive Vice President Josh Harris, who was also in attendance. Well, both parties have mutually agreed to harness Palantir's advanced technology in support of war-related missions, Harris told Bloomberg on Friday. This strategic partnership aims to significantly aid the Israeli Ministry of Defense in addressing the current situation in Israel. No further details on the arrangement were disclosed, including what technology would be provided. Okay, so Palantir last year introduced its AJP artificial intelligence platform, an intelligence and decision-making system that can analyze enemy targets and propose battle plans. Karp is in an interview with Bloomberg on Wednesday said the Denver-based company's products were in great demand in Israel since its war with Hamas began on October 7th. Palantir held a board meeting in Tel Aviv for the first time. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. And so this is, very alarming to say the least. Now it's actually already underway. So this does tie back to the PayPal mafia. This ties back to the PayPal bros, I believe is what they're being called, because it was like an adjacent group to big tech who were all the tech bros who were involved, led by Peter Thiel. And this has been the fear that was building up. And this actually goes all the way back to JD Vance, because JD Vance has ties to Thiel. In fact, Peter Thiel was essentially JD Vance's mentor. Peter Thiel is who got JD Vance into his software jobs that he supposedly was never at, from testimony from other coworkers. So JD Vance has a weird kind of history leading right up to the presidency. But Palantir's already taken over $113 million in government spending, and that's just since Trump's been in office. They did get a contract with the Department of Defense, I believe, about 8 days ago, for over like $800 million. But those contracts have like different things, so we'll know how much it really was for. Time from now when it gets settled and we see how much they took from their budget, et cetera, et cetera. But right now, they're trying to sell the technology to the Social Security Administration and the IRS to buy the technology because they want those departments to be using the technology. It's actually already being used by the Department of Homeland Security, Human Health Services, and there's like 2 other agencies that are already using Palantir, which is a bit terrifying, because as I come to understand it from what is being told to me and what I'm seeing, is that this is essentially going to be the building block that makes a social credit system here in the United States. Much of what we have been fearing from what China has already implemented, and then using AI to help expedite that. The article from the New Republic actually even highlighted that the Palantir actually asked for all of the Doge data that Doge had scraped, all of the personal data from the Social Security runs when they were doing all the checks. And I believe they did turn that data over. So far, the only thing that Doge has actually truly accomplished besides recommendations is Doge basically gave everybody's scraped personal data over to Palantir. So right now we're at the point where they have it. It's just like, are they going to get the permissions to move forward and do it? And will those other agencies step in to adopt the technology and take it to the next level as well? So it's a lot there, I know. So I added a bunch of people with additional context. That first one there is from Ian Smith's Fitness. This is the guy who was famously known for what he did during the COVID pandemic in Jersey with Attila's gym. They like took a bunch of big padlocks to their gym doors and closed them up. And I think him and his buddy, the co-owner of the gym, they went and cut them all off with bolt cutters and broke the doors down. And they opened their gym defiantly against the COVID mandate. So that's where this guy comes from. He's been on a bit of a strong bend in politics lately. He is, again, just to warn people who might be triggered, he is very anti-Israel with this. But the main points that he makes here does give a little highlight of a history of where Palantir and who Peter Thiel is. And I thought it was pretty informative, so I included it.
Right. And so, wow, this is long. So he says Donald Trump just handed Palantir the contract to build the federal AI database, which will be the single most dangerous consolidation of power in modern American history. Palantir isn't a tech company. It's a surveillance machine born inside the CIA, funded through In-Q-Tel and run by Peter Thiel, a billionaire data oligarch who openly brags about crushing right-wing populist movements in Europe with his software. Now he's here building the backbone of American AI. This is the same Peter Thiel who groomed the character of JD Vance and shaped national AI policymaker as an unelected power broker. He pretends to be anti-woke while embedding Palantir across every global intelligence agency. And Trump, the guy who ran on Drain the Swamp, just handed him the keys. You're watching a merger of big tech, big government, and artificial intelligence branded as patriotism. They're not creating tools. They're building infrastructure for digital authoritarianism. Palantir has already been used for pre-crime arrests and pandemic lockdown enforcement, and now it's being given access to national database under the flag of security. This isn't the Patriot Act 2.0. It's a Revelation 13 in real time. That's so crazy that they say that, because I was just thinking this reminds me of the mark of the beast. And I assume Revelation 13 is where that is mentioned. Maybe y'all can let me know in chat, but I was just thinking this reminds me of how they could set up a world structure basically with everybody cataloged, right? And so anyways, I mean, AI is going to be able to pull your file and know what's wrong with you, what immunizations you've had, who your kids are, what year you got your driver's license, where you went to school.
It's going
to keep everything, right? It's gonna be basically just limited by the amount of storage they can hold. And this is crazy. And so
well, I mean, with that, just another aside with that point alone. And yes, to answer your question, TNT, I thought that was funny. This is like Ian Smith, and like there's a few others like Sovereign Bra as well, another prominent account that have been very vocally anti-Elon, because they've taken an early position where they've always thought that Neuralink would eventually be exactly what this is. And I think that they kind of view that once Palantir becomes the system at large, the communicator, the brain of the surveillance system, that Neuralink will be the tool that gives it to everybody. And everyone kind of puts the chip in their arm, if you will. And so, Ian Smith, I believe, aligns with that view as well too, which is to say, like, that he's very, very vocal about what he deems to be is we're close to the end, and he matches like the Neuralink and the surveillance systems to be, the mark of the beast, or like the all-seeing eye, right, with Palantir.
Yeah, definitely. TNT makes a point. It says you want 30 million people deported. Something like this is how you do it. Unfortunately, oh god, what the trade-off? You know what I mean? What choice, which path do we take in that, right? But Just Me also mentions here that Revelation 13, 16 through 17 states, also it causes all, both small and great, both rich and poor, both free and slave, to be marked on the right hand or the forehead, so that no one can buy or sell unless ... etc. So let's see here.
I mean,
Zozodo Lewin, I've never seen you before. It says, I don't give a shit what you do with your time. Love you. Don't let the wine. Okay. Thanks for being here. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. We're building here. And I'm going to take this opportunity, actually, you guys, to make sure that everybody watching, double check that you are subscribed, please. If you haven't subscribed before, please do for the first time. We are building the channel. If you enjoy the show, that's the best way that you can support us, and it's a free way that you can support us. And we're grateful that you guys took the time to be here, and all the new people in chat. You definitely have been a pleasure. So thanks for being here, and please come back. Also, if you guys are watching over on X, make sure you give us a follow. I see we have a bunch of people watching on X, and I'm going to ask you guys a favor. If you don't mind, maybe open up the YouTube app and type in the Jar Openers podcast. You might have to add channel. You might have to type in the Jar Openers podcast channel. And then when that pulls up, give us a like on this video. Give us a subscribe on the channel as well. We don't ask much. Like I said, it's a free way that you can help support us and give away Google's money to some guys that Google doesn't necessarily approve of with their woke DEI type agenda. So I just love how we can do that, right? I love how we can just freely make those decisions. So with your guys' support, with your guys' love, we can grow this into a bigger show. And that's the only way we'll grow is with your guys' help. And then, of course, share this show with your friends, share it on your platforms, all that type of good stuff. Send it to your group chat and give us a chance. Like I said, we're just a couple dudes working from home, trying to do our little part in this cultural, political space that we have right now as alt media grows. So anyways, let's get back to this. I just wanted to take that opportunity to ask folks to give us a few minutes of their time and show some love and support. So anyways,
thanks everybody for being here.
Anyway, let's continue. I'm going to continue where I left off. It says, quote, he causes all to receive a mark. No man might buy, sell. Okay. So yeah, he actually confirmed that it was a mark of the beast. All I had to do was read the next sentence, but I'm glad my spidey senses were on the mark.
Right.
So you think the mark will look like a chip? It will look like this. An AI assigning you a risk score, a predictive model determining your access to banking, travel, medicine, a tech priesthood deciding who's dangerous, and Trump is funding it. Palantir is a digital beast system. Thiel is the architect, and the conservatives are sleepwalking into their own captivity, cheering as their anti-establishment hero turns the surveillance state into a machine learning monster. This isn't freedom. This is Babel in binary. The Tower of Babel.
Yeah.
Interesting perspective.
Yes. And that's one thing I would emphasize on this too, is the pre-crime aspect of this. You even have both Thiel and co-founder, what's his name, Alex Karp. They talk about this at length. I think Alex Karp has a lot more kind of wild scenarios where he's kind of talking about this pre-crime instance. But if anybody wants an idea of what Palantir's, the concept of Palantir, there's a fantastic, people might not like it, but an anime in the same way. Minority Report, very similar, right closer to Psychopaths. Watch just the first episode of Psychopaths to get an idea of what this system is going to bring about. Because it's what they're doing, right? In this anime series, they measure people's risk, right? What's their emotional level? Are they radical? Are they too emotional? And if they hit any of those features, they automatically throw them in jail or execute them. So it's like it's a crazy thing to watch. It's called Psychopaths. I believe that seems to be the trend that we are heading towards, and it is a little terrifying. Also, that is a hilarious comment.
I know. Like the video, Earl Park whirls car in front of your house, so your neighbors will think you're gay. It's so good. I got a Mach-E. It's my wife's. And it's awesome. So I don't even care.
It's funny.
It's mine. It's my wife's. I don't care. Okay. So next we got High Impact Flicks posted. This is serious. Trump's partnership with Palantir Technologies aims to implement a March 2025 executive order mandating federal agencies to share data, your data. The initiative has one goal: centralize all government data, leveraging Palantir's Foundry platform. I get it, the communication between agencies and stuff like that, it needs to be expedited, but it's at our expense, ultimately. You know what I mean? It's a shame. But Palantir's Foundry platform is able to merge vast databases. We're talking bank accounts, medical records, driving record, student debt, disability status, political affiliation, credit card expenditures, online purchases, activities, tax filings, travel records, phone records, politically creating detailed profiles on every American. If you don't think this will lead to unchecked monitoring and zero oversight, you need your head examined. Yeah, and this is one of those times where I'll remind you that anytime the government, takes power or takes a freedom, you know what I mean? They never give that back, right? So something to keep in mind here. But it says we're talking about threatening freedom and ending your life as you know it. This is light years beyond Real ID, the Patriot Act, and PRISM. This is centralized, comprehensive authoritarianism, surveillance, and control grid. And those who control it desire to have complete power over you and everyone else. They said "and" a bunch of times at the end there. You're supposed to do it just before the last point, just so you know. Just use commas next time, guy. But I get your point. The
meme is funny.
This Trump is making us safer by having Palantir create a master database of citizens' data. Kicked her out. Yeah, I don't know how much of MAGA is really championing this, to be honest with you. Just because Trump might be making a decision doesn't necessarily mean that the people are in support of it. And hopefully there's negative backlash and Trump is looking and paying attention like he historically does, and maybe he will backtrack from this. But I don't know. There's a lot of money being committed to these AI projects that Trump is building. I remember there was one around I feel like it was like the second day in office after he was inaugurated. Like I was still in DC before they announced the news that there was like 3 big tech giants that merged their AI platforms, and they Trump even live on TV got the dude to double his commitment from 1 billion to 1.2 billion to 2.2 billion or something like that. And the guy was like, yeah, well, we'll see what goes on in the future. But it seemed like they were just talking about building the first of many, and how much money these companies were committing to building the AI infrastructure, which, look, the race to having the best, biggest, baddest AI is kind of the next nuclear arms race or race to the moon or whatever, I think, between competing countries, because AI is an advantage, but it's not 100% trustworthy. That's something to keep in mind too. But right. I don't know. It's pretty wild. I'm definitely against a bigger collection, a database of our personal information. We sit here and pay all this money to secure our online identities using VPNs and decryptions. And I mean, I even had Aura sponsor my channel once, and they're great, by the way. I love using their stuff. But a little free plug. Yeah, man, it's one of those things where now they're just gonna package it and sell it and hand it over to an AI. It's nah, we don't want that. Let's just ignore it. Let's not work on this. Let's not fund this. We got plenty of other projects to worry about. Not this, but
yeah. Well, I mean, here's the thing too. There is a point where the MAGA thing does hold a little bit of weight, and the reality set in when I realized that when I was putting the outline together today, right? I throw a lot of stuff together for the outline. I got to do a lot of combing through different stories so I have an idea of what's going on. Glenn Greenwald, plenty of massive accounts, right? We went through a bunch of them, massive accounts, right? Very big accounts, right? Clint Russell, Andrew Wilson, Glenn Greenwald, right? Talking about that story. Palantir, which even some in the audience, right, were like, why don't we talk about this? This is the more important story. I don't see a single thing from Jack Posobiec. I don't see a single thing from Charlie Kirk. I don't see a single thing from insert any major large mega conservative pundit. I've seen nothing from them about the Palantir issue. I've seen Benny Johnson tweet 18 times about Donald Trump's phone background. Don't give a shit about that. Why has he not said one thing about the Palantir story? So I do think there's a little bit of truth in that there as well. Even Dominic Michael Trippi, who's a rising independent journalist on here, said, man, it's been devastatingly silent for MAGA on this issue. And then I think also you do have a thing where maybe the Glenn Greenwald thing wasn't a blackmail operation. Maybe the Glenn Greenwald instance was more so a distraction from what this story is. So now most people's focus is actually about this Glenn Greenwald scandal, which is yada, yada, yada. But in reality, the more dangerous story that should be the story of the day is relegated to number 2, number 3, or not even talked about at all. So again, it's a little odd to see this happening. But again, it's crazy to think that 2 years ago, people were getting excised and screamed at because they were saying the reason I'm not going to vote for Donald Trump is because he's cozying up with Peter Thiel. I don't like what they're doing at Palantir as well as their AGI. I'm fearing that they're building a social credit system, and then boom, here we are in 2025. That's exactly what it looks like. But you have other instances here as well. You even have, we can go to Clint Russell too, right? Clint Russell was actually adamantly against people who are decrying Glenn Greenwald. But Clint Russell turns around on this story and says that this is actually a massive Trump L. He's radically against it, and I agree with him. I cannot see for the life of me any positive nature of what this story is. And in fact, is making those look like it was almost a scam just to get people to give up their private data, which again is like, I don't, we're failing the optics test. like once again, right? None of this looks good.
Right. Well, it's just there's so many layers to it. So you got to be careful with your approach, and then of course as you're going, you're going to have new issues kind of arise as you take this somewhat unprecedented path. That there's been oversight committees and stuff like that before, but not like in this manner.
Yeah, and Bloomberg wasn't the original source either. TNT, I believe the original source was the New Republic, and the story was then picked up by the New York Times as well as Bloomberg and a bunch of other. It's definitely went mainstream since I believe like 4 p.m. this morning, or earlier today, I should say.
Donnie says, sure, but they are strengthening the infrastructure of the surveillance state. You have to fight against it as hard as you can, even if something feels small. Yeah, I totally agree. It says, and then he follows up and says, otherwise they just make the movements. I'm sorry. Otherwise they just make little movements no one cares about until you're in prison. Right.
Yeah, and House probably has the best take on that, right? I'm sure the Democrats won't weaponize this if they ever get back in power, which is to say, if you are building a system where the system is deciding what may constitute a pre-crime or a thought crime, right, from 1984.
Right. Well, they tried to.
It's going to matter who's making the parameters.
Now that I think about it, they kind of tried to do this, but it was with people instead of AI. What was it? The administration of they hired they hired the lady, and then they ended up having to fire her under Biden. It was like it was named after the Harry Potter thing, like the Ministry of.
Oh, the Ministry of Truth.
Is that what it was? The Ministry of Truth or whatever? And they tried to do it in the Biden administration. It's like, this is just like the AI version, like the ramped up AI version. Like the Democrats already tried it. House mentions, I'm sure the Democrats won't weaponize it if they get back in power, when they get back in power. It's like they've already tried to do something like this. They're just going to put a bunch of woke individuals on the committee to try to categorize people and determine this type of stuff, wrong think. This is just going to be a souped up AI, Ministry of Truth. Yeah, thank you, House. Version of this almost. Like, I'm totally not against this. I'm totally not for this. I'm totally against this.
Right.
I don't like being categorized.
Or, I don't like that someone else is going to decide what is good and what is bad, right? Anything that's not the Bible is not that, right? So we move to like what Ian Smith talked about, right? Which is a tech priesthood is going to be the ones who decide if you have crossed the line or not, right? I don't think anybody enjoys that aspect of it, because what if the tech priesthood, which again, Peter Thiel, another openly gay man, I believe Alex Karp is as well. What if they both decide, they're the ones who are proponents of it, the co-founders of the technology, they decide that anyone who doesn't love gay people has committed a hate crime? Well, what are you going to do then, right?
Right.
You're going to live in a country, or you're going to deal with all the consequences that come from that, or you're going to deny God just because you want a more convenient life in America? These are like real choices that have like real consequences. That like, speculation. I agree with that, right? A lot of speculation because nothing has happened yet per se. But I do agree with Donnie. Like, you fight like hell against stuff like this. Like, no way. I read the plot of 1984 from George Orwell, and people were like, "Well, this doesn't seem like half bad." Like, get the hell out of here, dude. Like, no, I want no part of that. I don't want to live in a country where we're treated like half slaves, and they can come in and listen to recordings from your TV and your laptop and do things with your technology, and then grade you and then rank you based on how you feel or think about something online. Like, that's insane to me. If we're even at this point in the timeline, we've lost the plot. And again, I think a lot of this goes back to the fact of what I bring up all the time, right? With voting, right? Voting replaced violence as the medium in which people decided how they're going to organize their lives, right? It used to be the strongest man wins. Now we've moved to like the strongest idea wins, but even that's getting convoluted because we have all this electioneering going on. Whereas we're on a track right now, and I've been saying this for a while, where I think that there might just be a spurt of violence, blind and fast, abrasive, but it's going to be in reaction to what we're seeing right now because so many people seemingly are okay to continually go down this dark path. And I'm just sitting here to say, hey, like you follow the dating trends or the disparticipation, you see like the job rankings, you see like the way that employers are. Yeah, I mean, we're on track for a good, solid demographic of young men to just become violent because of the way the system is operating. And so,
Hmm.
I
The
guess,
powder
do
keg.
do with that what you will, right? That seems to be the path that we're on.
Right. Just me says we already know that 99% of those in power are 100% evil. Why would I want them to be able to give me a score based on how different I am than them? Based on their scoring system, their scores will be through the roof, and my scores will be in the gutter.
Right.
Yeah, 100%. Pretty crazy. Uh,
That's a hilarious name, dude. There's no way YouTube lets you have that name.
it's got to be the underscore that gets it. Whatever. um, TNT says, I'm a white male that likes women. I've been scored at the bottom for 25 years.
That's funny. That's funny. True. Right. Right. That's why I cannot take seriously any of the whole like the racism or the anti this or whatever. Because it's like, dude, it's been so overtly anti-white male for the last 20 years in this country, and you don't see people being like, well, we need to institute a ministry of anti-whiteness, like the anti-white regime. We're gonna comb through content. We're gonna pull Harvard funding because they're anti-white. Like, bro, like no one cares about white men. But inversely, and I see this video all the time. You might have seen this, right? That old white dude at the Pachi Grill who looks like just so fed up with life. And that the comment was his wife just scheduled a training session with her trainer at 3 a.m. His daughter just got an 8 million snap score, and his son just hit 1 million views on his makeup tutorial. Like that was the caption, and it's showing this old guy who looks just so fed up with life. But my thought to that was like, like, because you did nothing, and you still do nothing. And it's what I say this all the time, and it probably bothers guys who are older than me, but that's what I see often is like I see a bunch of men in the generations that came before me that sat there and effing took it. Like you're part of the reason that we're here is, evil takes place when good men choose to do nothing. And that is exactly where we are. A lot of good men deciding that they'd rather be concerned about their own families and could give a shit what happens in their community, with their nation, their state. Who cares? Not my problem. Well, guess what? Now it's all of your grandchildren's problem because you decided that you were going to abdicate all responsibility because it'd be more convenient for yourself to not get yelled at by a Karen. That to me
Mhm.
is pathetic, and that's part of the reason why we're here.
Yeah, for sure. So Shane Cashman, he commented and said, this is bad. Palantir is bad. Teal and Carp are evil tech vampires. Dominic Michael Tripoli says, I have not seen one mainstream MAGA influencer or anyone with direct ties to the administration discuss this recent Palantir story. Not one. The silence should tell you something. Well, you're not watching the Jar Openers podcast there, bud. I don't know where you're at, but behind the curve, I guess. I don't know. This person says that the Hodge twins have been quite vocal about it.
It's actually a good idea. I'm going to quote him and say we're covering it right now.
Right. Reed starting somewhere posted and said Palantir is one of the things where you learn more and start to understand what the modern face of evil looks like. Is accompanied by a video here. Looks like a 3-minute long video. Let's just let's give it a play.
In Lord of the Rings, a Palantir stone is a magical object
Oh.
that allows its users to predict the future or to see what's going on in a remote location.
It was originally created by the elves. It was meant to be used for good purposes. It is potentially a very dangerous technology. It's very powerful.
Yeah, it's a crystal ball.
Long have you hunted me?
So that's Middle Earth, but what does Palantir do in a regular Earth?
And what we do is we use what legal scholars call predicate-based search. So we would look at you, and then we would go out and say, oh, there's lots of different things in your life that may be indicative of someone being...
Sorry. TNT says I literally won $350 in a class action lawsuit for not getting hired at a meat plant because I was white. Got a random letter 10 years later with the check. Bro, I would put that check on my wall if I got that. That you'd see it pinned and everybody would be like, "What is that thing?"
Yeah.
That's awesome. He said he never knew. That's why he wasn't hired. Give about 350. 350 made up for it. Sorry,
Well,
I
no, he
saw
really
that.
won like $350, but the lawyer got a 99% defense fee. He got the 1%.
Right. That's crazy. All right, I'm going to finish this.
Someone involved in bad behavior.
Put simpler, they make software that makes it easier for their customers to collect and analyze data, and then act on that analysis with and without AI. By 2013, 10 years after their founding, Palantir's client list included the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, the Marines, the Air Force, Special Operations Command, and more.
Did your company help to track and kill Osama bin Laden?
You know, we can never. I'll tell you, the closest thing to an answer.
This is wild.
Like, there are when you look at when you open the paper and look in the news about these kind of things, there's a 2/3 chance, depending on the country involved, that somehow my company was involved.
Fundamentally, the mission.
That's too much power. 2/3 chance that like you open the news and you see an article. Like what?
Right.
Insane. That's insane.
That is pushed to employees is that we're solving the world's hardest problems and supporting Western institutions. That is the main driver of sort of this militaristic culture that is developed inside of Palantir.
If you do not feel comfortable supporting the legitimate efforts of America and its allies in the context of war, don't join Palantir.
This entire message of like, we are the most lethal, we are the most able to surveil and process large amounts of data.
You have created the system which you call kill chain.
Privately. Publicly, the lawyers have some innocuous something like tech for the amelioration of unwanted blah blah blah. some term we're supposed to
Okay,
use.
let's
For me, it's the kill chain.
kill chain sounds good.
Kill chain isn't an original term created by Palantir. It's the more general military verbiage for the series of decisions leading from identifying a target to taking their life. Palantir's contract added their software and artificial intelligence to the kill chain.
It's quicker and better and safer and more violent.
It's tech that Juan helped market.
It reduces the distance you have to the problem, but when you're able to take a step back and really see all the narratives and how they were shaped and the actual application of these technologies, your whole world starts falling apart.
Does it now?
Which is wild. Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
wild, admittance. Laura Loomer actually even highlighted the next video we were going to play, because that person who was speaking in the video there, who was like stuttering about like the power when asked, and then the kill chain thing, that is Alex Karp. He is the co-founder. He does work alongside Peter Thiel. Now, Laura Loomer actually even highlighted this, and this is from 2023, when there was even fears back then, and there have been for some time, where Alex Karp is basically bragging that their product, I believe, was it say there too? Yeah, Gotham, helped quell the far right rise in Europe, which I think is pretty alarming, seeing them cozying up nowadays with MAGA here as well. And I think people are rightfully so being worried and concerned. Like, what does this mean? Does this mean the most vocal voices that are maybe outside of MAGA bubble are going to get pushed out or silent? Like, what is in the what's in the barrel?
Right. So Laura Loomer says this. Alex Karp, the co-founder and CEO of Peter Thiel's company Palantir, says that their product known as Gotham, which he calls PG, quote, single-handedly stopped the rise of the far right in Europe. Peter Thiel calls himself an ally of the right while he works to destroy us. So I'm not sure exactly what the right in Europe looks like, but I think, well, I don't know. I'm not going to speculate, I guess.
The right in Europe is to the left of where the right is here. So if that tells you anything, the far right would probably in Europe would include many people's favorite pundits here. You know,
Like
if you were to place the
progressives.
UK Overton window, on top of the US.
Okay.
There is, and it's odd because it's not like they have the two-party dichotomy that we have here, right? Over in Europe, there's like the EU parties as well as the actual country parties, and then even inside those, there's like 13 different parties. I think even in France, right, there's like 13 or 14 different parties. So it looks a bit different because our Overton windows have kind of a line, right? It's like left and right, where theirs is more so the quadrants, where theirs can kind of go a bit up and around based on like economic views and,
Mm.
socialists, nationalists, all those things kind of have a bit more play in UK politics just because they have a lot more factions and a lot more parties.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Let's have a look at the video.
Look, we built PG, which single-handedly stopped the rise of the far right in Europe. We built Foundry, which was used to distribute the COVID vaccine and saved millions of lives globally. We built what we call multi-constellation, and what's often called the digital kill chain. And they're category-defining products. So when you deliver these products to the market, just honestly, people say this isn't going to exist, this isn't valuable, but then it changes the market. And then the market is the Palantir market. Now, that doesn't mean everyone in the world is going to buy our product, but it means most of the sensible people in the world are going to buy from the category we defined. Look, we built
Okay, so he said, he ended that and said, most of the sensible people in the world will buy our product. What the hell does Palantir make? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Is it software? I guess it's software.
Yeah.
Just so weird.
I believe it's typically marketed as AGI, which I believe in short stands for artificial general intelligence.
Okay, that was their name of their main artificial intelligence that I read earlier. AGI, I think.
Yeah, and with that, it's again, these are very complex things, and especially with AI and technology, it's obviously way down the line, and so it's hard to like kind of break it down to more digestible, simple ways to understand. But I guess put more simply, they sell the kind of canvas of the AI, which can then be in turn turned into smaller, maybe more specialized kind of AI programs and different software. So, like even in that quote there from Laura Loomer, the Palantir development turned, and they gave them a product called Gotham. So Palantir, developed another AI product, which is called, again, Gotham. And there's been multiple instances of this, right? Like you have, the ones that are used by our own intelligence agencies, and as well as like DHS and what was the other one? HHS, which is Human and Health Services, or maybe it's the other way around, Health and Human Services. They already use it. They already have their own kind of specialized programs that they have purchased from Palantir on Department of Defense contracts. Which is, again, it's just a scary prospect because I don't think anyone is happy or clapping along with anything like this. And I get, at least to me, when I see something like this and you're bragging about your AI was a tool that was utilized in order to quell speech in the country that you didn't like. I mean, like, as someone who is a free speech absolutist, I hate everything I hear about that, because I don't think anything leads to a good road out of there.
Yeah, it's the wrong type of brag for me.
Right. And there is the article I included from the New Republic that goes into a bit more detail of all of the things here. I believe this was the source, and if this wasn't, it was the New York Times one. I couldn't tell which one was which, but I think the New Republic was the lead story on this.
Okay, well, I'll read some of the top part here. Trump taps Palantir to create master database on every American. Trump's dystopian plan is already underway. Should I read it like this?
Right.
Evil plan, right?
So the most important part with this would be that just basically goes over stuff we've already talked about. But if you start in that paragraph right there and those next three, it's loaded with information there.
Okay, so I'll just say the order has increased fears that the government is putting together a database to wield surveillance powers over the American public. Since then, the administration has been very quiet about these efforts, increasing suspicion. Meanwhile, Palantir has taken more than $113 million in government spending since Trump took office. both from existing contracts and new ones with the Departments of Defense and Homeland Security. The number is expected to grow, especially given that the firm just won a new $795 million contract with the DoD last week. Actually, I have see this other information about them here too. Oh no, okay, it's the same. I thought there was another detail there. So Palantir is speaking with various other agencies across the federal government, including the Social Security Administration and the IRS, about buying its technology. According to the Times, Palantir's Foundry tool, which analyzes and organizes data, is already being used at the DHS and Department of Human Health Services, and at least 2 other agencies, goodness, allowing the White House to compile data from different places. The administration's effort to compile data began under Elon Musk's Department of a DOGE initiative, which sought Americans' personal data from multiple agencies, including the IRS, the SSA, Selective Service, Medicare, and many others. In some cases, court orders hindered these efforts, but not in all of them. You know, this is one of those times where it's like you make a deal with the government. You know, this is the thanks you get, right? And so.
Yeah.
Americans' personal data from multiple agencies, including the IRS. I mean, including the IRS, that means everybody that's filed taxes. And you have to file taxes by a law. So anybody that's ever fucking filed taxes in history is now included in this. It's crazy, right? Just simple enough. The IRS, that's it. The SSA, Selective Service, Medicare, and many others. In some cases, court order hinder them. Okay, so Thiel has multiple ties to DOGE, both through Musk and through many of his former employees working for the effort and taking over jobs in the Trump administration. And this data collection effort could give Thiel, Musk, Trump unprecedented powers over Americans, with the president being better able to punish his critics and target immigrants. Well, see, that's the thing. I don't know how, like, are they going to do all this data collection on illegal immigrants or just like American citizens? Because I mean, it's like really hard. There's a lot of trust involved with like actually identifying the illegal immigrant to be being the person that they claim that they are, and not being doubled up and recounted in the system and everything else as it applies. So this doesn't seem like it really helps with anything as far as like identifying individuals as Americans or not. I know they're trying to do this whole real ID thing, that's going to be incorporated into it next, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Like this, I don't like this. Like everything that happened in the wake of 9/11 with the other one, we were looking at it earlier, the one that allowed the United States government to spy on us. What is it, the Patriot Act? And this is just like, you know, in 20 years, we're going to be like, why did we allow this? We already knew how bad the Patriot Act was. Why did we do this?
Right.
Yeah, and I'm wondering about that statement there too, TNT. I'm glad you brought it up. Doge did not get our personal info. That's just bullshit. Yeah, they were like, they're not connecting the dots properly. Doge was oversight over the organizations, you know what I mean? Over segments of the government. They weren't actually doing like the work, running audits of individuals like citizens. So I'm not quite sure how they're saying that the Doge program allowed them to compile the information. Yeah, TNT saying the whole story is lies. It's weird.
Yeah, I would just say, anyway, I mean, this is where you got to just use Google. It would take 10 seconds to just Google, did Doge work with Palantir? You get multiple articles. Doge worked with Palantir as of like 2 months ago. So I don't know what you mean by like, this is total lies.
Well, no, like how did they get
Doge had a spokesperson who has asked, not Balls, whatever his name is, but Doge had a spokesperson that was forwardly asking, they want Palantir to be the program that merges with AGI over Elon Musk's Grok, right? So this was actually point of contention about a month and a half ago, but nobody really.
That's why Elon Musk got the black eye. They just got AI fight.
Well, I thought that was funny because did you see this thing with Stephen Miller?
No, I didn't.
So Stephen Miller's wife, who was working with the Trump administration, she left her position to work full time with Elon Musk. I don't know if it was at Tesla or SpaceX, one of the two. And it's funny because they see the black eye, and so I made the point. I was like, Stephen Miller went down swinging. Like Elon Musk is like taking his wife, so Stephen Miller gave him a black eye for him.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, that whole story is weird. The whole black
He said
eye
his son
situation.
gave it to him. He said his
Right.
son X gave it to him, which is kind of believable. Maybe his son did punch him in the face.
I mean, you can get hit just in the right spot and get a little blood vessel pop or something like that. Get a black eye, I guess. But
Yeah.
I don't know. It's pretty crazy. Let's see here. Let's just finish this up real quick. So privacy advocates, student unions, and labor rights organizations are among those who have sued to stop Trump's data collection efforts. Palantir's involvement also gives a powerful tech company access to data, and its CEO Alex Karp doesn't exactly have a benign agenda, hoping to cash in on American techno-militarism. Musk, too, has plans for government data using his AI Grok to analyze it. Will anyone be able to stop Trump? Will anyone be able to stop Trump and these tech oligarchs?
Yeah, I was going to link
TNT
the
said,
New York Times one,
by
but it was
zero.
behind that stupid paywall thing. Like even my ad blocker wouldn't get rid of it. I couldn't see the New York Times one. When it has like that pop up, like subscribe to our newsletter, right? For $1 a day or something like that. And I couldn't get it to go away. I was like, okay.
Yeah, they
This
put
is
you
bad.
behind the paywall and those things. It's stupid. It's like, you guys realize your articles are a dime a dozen. I'm just gonna get it from someone else.
Right.
Liber Pater. I mean, I'm probably saying your name completely wrong. Liber Pater. Says, yeah, none of what is going on has a good feeling about it. Yeah, I hear you. It's not a good scenario, and I think there's a bit of conflation. And TNT pointed it out that the data, and I could be wrong, but is the AI actually a part of this deal, or is it just that Peter Thiel has an AI like organization with and it's likely that it's going to be integrated, or is it actually a part of it?
So
Does that make sense?
You can go refer back to that opening paragraph. I think it's the third paragraph in the story. But they won the bid. They've already won smaller bids from the Department of Defense.
Mm-hmm.
This is about a week ago. They won a massive bid from the DoD for the $795 contract because they want these contracts to merge with the DoD, or I guess maybe more so get more involved with the DoD, because they do want Palantir to be the company that is developing the AGI for other programs. So Palantir, right, named after the all-seeing eye, is a broader canvas that houses a bunch of other smaller like programs, right? So it is a company, but it's also like technology at the same time. That's why I said, like, it's super complex. Like you probably have to watch someone explain it on a YouTube video because it's like there's so many moving parts to it, and there is like a weird history there too.
Right, trying to learn about a complex
video,
company.
Right. Well, the highlight there was that the majority of this is actually already actively being used, for the most part, in Israel, with the Hamas conflict. So part of what we saw in that opening video that showed like the Lord of the Rings scenes was some of their videos like highlighting like what they were able to do in that conflict right now as it is, right? We're talking like identifying Hamas terrorists like with very, very small amounts of data, or camera seeking and camera tracking, things like that that's already being used elsewhere. This is kind of their play to be the forward-facing, program for America. They want to institute themselves on this level here because they're already being utilized there in over there in Israel, and I believe a few other countries as well too. But most notably, the one that they brag about is the use there at Israel, because Israel does have a strong defense system.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. Sorry. Let's see. So, well, let's move on to the next one. You think? I think we pretty much covered everything with this one.
Yeah, we have the Tennessee Trans Shooter Manifesto that was released.
Yeah, exactly. So we got this one here from the Post Millennial. We're all gay. but the F word. FBI releases 112 pages of writing from Nashville trans school shooter showing maps, faculty lists, and anti-Christian diatribes. Quote, why does my brain not work right? Because I was born wrong. Nothing on earth can save me. Never-ending pain. Religion won't save. End quote. So this person was very mentally disturbed, apparently. And you guys, I'm sure you remember this story, but the Federal Bureau of Investigation on Thursday released over 100 pages of writing from Nashville Covenant School shooter Audrey Hale, who killed 3 children and 3 staff members in the 2023 shooting at the school. It was 6 people total? I don't remember it being 6 people total. Crazy. So per Fox 17, the 212 pages that the FBI released were found by law enforcement in Hale's car. The release comes after a long legal battle by the Tennessee Star and the Tennessee Firearms Association to make the documents available to the public. Those are all like FOIA requests and stuff like that. And so among the pages released by the FBI were redacted pages that had maps of the Covenant School, including the first floor and second floor, as well as lists of faculty members at the school and dates that the school was on break for the 2022-23 school calendar year. Hale wrote about feeling born wrong, scribbling on one page, quote, why does my brain not work right? Because I was born wrong. Nothing on earth can save me. Never-ending pain. Religion won't save, end quote. A stretch of pages included notes on beginning SIC shooters, end quote, and defensive pistol 1, 2, and 3, in which Hale wrote about universal safety rules of shooting drills, and situational awareness levels. In the following pages, Hale wrote about upcoming gun shows and gun legislation being considered at the time. Hale wrote on one page regarding Biden, quote, President Biden plans to ban assault weapons, corrupt effort, end quote. Additional pages included sketches of a body and the words on death day. Above, most of the pages were redacted, but included the words front side, inside vest, vest back, L side, and R side. Dang, Hale ranted on one page, we're all F's. Lesbians can be cute as long as they are feminine. Kill the dykes. I don't know if I can sell this stuff. Yeah. So we're gonna kind of skip some of this stuff. I think you guys get the amount of hatred and like Atlas said in the beginning. We're talking briefly about how he kind of started to set up a thread there on X. With screenshots of some of the more pertinent images and screenshots of her transcript or manifesto, whatever it is. And it just became too kind of evil feeling. And you can see it even in the writing here in this article. And so just continuing this last little top part here, it says, in another page, Hale considered pushing out the date of the shooting until April, because April reminds me of Columbina. Is that Columbine? I think it's supposed to be Columbine, but so. They spell check. It'd be nice to okay. they didn't spell check it correctly because it's a quote. It'd be nice to set up history 3 days before. Okay. So they're saying to repeat Columbine on the same day.
Well, they don't say it like they make it sound so complicated. She had a list of things to like get her in the mind state of being a killer, like a mass shooter. And on that list, like I think it was the second item to get done was to watch like a 3-hour raw footage of the Columbine shooting, among like other like really dark things, because she was outlining how to get her mindset, into that of like those who were like of Columbine. And part of the thing that added to the darkness too is throughout the whole thing, it's like littered with sketches. There's like stick figures and stars and drawings of plants. So it's like, it's creepy because you can tell a kid wrote this, right? Like a young person wrote it, like filled with like their drawing. But it's some of like the darkest content is what's in between those drawings. Like it's got a very, very bad feeling to it.
Yeah, Tony says it's funny how Worrell read all the typos. Man, I'm just trying to read.
That's funny.
Oh, that's funny. So yeah, so Hell also wrote out multiple lists of things to get done before death day, included one to read the book and to watch the movies, one outlining plans for the day before the shooting and preparation list for the guns and ammo. The pages released also included those that were previously reported on, including the section titled My Imaginary Penis, a page in which Hale ranted, yeah, I can't say that or that. So, yeah, remove them. Good Lord.
Yeah. That's the transcript down there. 112 pages of it.
Yeah,
I did
down here, I
download
figured.
it and go through it.
Yeah, I figured that's what this was right here. Not
Yeah.
gonna scroll through. I don't want to come across something that's unbecoming, but this,
Right.
I mean, if you guys are interested, just go to the Post Millennial. You can download it as a PDF file right here. You can download that and inspect it for yourselves.
Yeah.
We also have
my
this.
way backwards. I went to the very, very end of it and worked my way to like the order stuff. So I figured that'd be a more an easier way to digest it. Go from like the event to like what led up to the event. And
Oh,
yeah.
gotcha.
But this is a video
So,
here too, just highlighting that, they're revisiting it, showing, again, that these people, the FBI and others obviously hid it for some time because it wasn't, as they say, fit the narrative, because clearly this whole manifesto was very anti-Christian. And again, the school shooting did happen at the Covenant School, Christian school. So there's a very anti-Christian theme to the manifesto and obviously her rationale for doing so in the first place.
mm-hmm.
112 pages released by the FBI were found by law enforcement in Hale's car. The release comes after a long legal battle by Tennessee Star and the Tennessee Firearms Association to make the documents available to the public. Among the pages released by the FBI were redacted pages that had maps of the Covenant School.
Who read it better, Tim Pool or me? Should we put a poll up?
Including the first floor and second floor, as well as lists of faculty members at the school and dates that the school was on break for the 22-23 school calendar. Hale wrote about being born wrong, scribbling on one page, "Why does my brain not work right? Because I was born wrong." A sketch of pages includes notes on the beginning shooters and a defensive pistol, etc. They go on to mention that there was, of course, anti-Christian diatribes. And I guess for personal and professional reasons, we're not going to show the manifesto. It's available at the Post Millennial for those that want to go through these pages, but we're not going to dive into that other than to talk about the reason why this was covered up. And in my opinion, it's because of two principal things. One, the anti-Christian bias. This is hate crime territory. This should be listed among all of these NGOs that track all the hate and everything as anti-Christian hatred.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, it's never going to make the press because it goes against the narrative. And then the other
Right. They can't acknowledge that exists, nor can they exist that racism against white people exists. But continuing.
Right.
issue, of course, was the leftist ideology of being born wrong, resulting in this person engaging in this kind of behavior is damaging to the leftist gender narrative and blank slate narrative. So the FBI at the time was probably like, let's just not show anybody this.
Yeah.
You don't
And
work
good
for
call out there,
us,
Donnie.
so just do whatever the hell you want. So stupid.
Right. It's the classic PR thing, right? I point this out all the time, right? Dylan Mulvaney did it the best during the Bud Light debacle. Instead of posting, they literally didn't post on social media for like 3 months until everything died down and then went back to doing what they were doing. It was able to
Right.
save the majority of their audience for the most part and get past the outrage that for the right wing doesn't last very long. Seems like the left is willing to sit and hold their outrage for much, much, much longer than we are.
Right. Well,
'Cause
look at the Bud Light. Yeah, look at just the entire Bud Light debacle, not just like the Dylan Mulvaney aspect of it. Just everybody got pissed off at Bud Light, and then next thing you know, they spend $100 million on a freaking UFC contract. They buy their way out of through advertising and through monopolies. Essentially, you can buy a freaking beer from a Major League Baseball game or NFL game unless it was a Bud Light or some type of Bud product.
Right.
What I mean? Just basically bought
Yeah.
their way back into the good graces by just out spending, dominating, whatever, out dealing the competition.
Yeah. And
it's
then you
pretty
had
crazy.
people like Tim early on who was like after a month was like, okay, guys, like stop boycotting them. Look, they gave money. And which is going against people like Matt Walsh, who was saying like, no, burn it to the ground, crush them, right? Like this is the most successful conservative, what do you call it, boycott we've ever done. Why are you trying to call it early? So there's like, there's like even infighting on those regards. And it just shows again, the right wing is an amalgamation of so many different factions where the left is an absolute monolith. But the point does stand, right? Like the reason why we didn't get this in its raw, unedited form for as many years as we did was because it wasn't politically feasible. It wasn't socially cohesive to what their narrative was. And I think the best point there that he made was like, yeah, when do we get all the hate crimes against anti-Christian stuff, right? When we're going to start throwing Hollywood filmmakers in jail because their movies are agendaed to instigate, hatred against Christian values.
Yeah, let's get a
We're never
precedent.
gonna
Let's
get
get a
that.
legal standard precedent in a court case, and then see how that shit, see how that works out.
Right.
So yeah, you're right. I mean, that's a good point that they didn't want to have that on their docket, essentially.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah. And it's unfortunate, but that's the I guess that story, that's that news show. And again, one of those ones where as I was putting stuff together in the outline, I'm kind of like, wait a minute, the trans manifesto dropped like 18 hours ago. So I'm looking at it, and like the only person I even saw from people who I follow, which is a pretty broad network, because I follow a lot of people in the political space, was Andy No. Andy No was the only person who had posted the link to the article and was talking about it. And I was like, that's wild. Like they got what they needed done, right? The FBI wanted to kill the story, remove all the outrage, so when it drops 3 years from now, really nobody cares about it. And that's exactly what they had. And it's wild how successful that shit is.
yeah, yeah, for sure. It's pretty wild. So, this next story, I haven't seen anything about this, and it's involving, let's see, the AI self deletion.
Oh yeah, this was a very small story, just a blip in the Dan Bongino Cash Patel Epstein saga, which is just to point out. And if you go to the tweet, right, if you scroll down, look how massive this tweet is. Right, 6 million views,
6
like almost
million.
200,000 likes. And the comment this guy makes is largely that it's odd, it's peculiar the timing that we went from years of no, we have no footage of Epstein to oh, we have a video that proves it goes against what everyone believes, and it happens right when it looks like AI video generation is on the verge of becoming a commercially successful product. Right, like the timing can't be understated, and I think again, in a very convoluted, mysterious, dark, chasing ghosts kind of news story, this I think adds another kind of layer to that complexity, which is I think a good theory or a solid conspiracy, which is what's to stop them from spending time to generate an 8-second video that shows Epstein slump jail hanging himself.
Right.
Instead of a prison, and you can just make it look like it's security footage. You got the live recording VHS kind of tape stuff there. It's just something to think about.
Right, because the video here is the FBI will soon release video that proves Epstein was not murdered, and it's quote clear as day. From the sounds of it, it's exactly like what I had suspected on the last show, which was what are they going to show? Like camera footage around his cell, but not in his cell, so that you can see that like nobody went in or nobody came out or something like that. But it's in like,
right.
Oh, I heard this point made on maybe Tim Pool's show, maybe it was Native Patriots show, I can't remember. They said, well, how do we know that the medics that walked in there, I think it was Tim Pool's, the medics that went in there, right, to determine what's going on, didn't do it. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
If we're watching people walk in and out, and it's like, well, see, nobody's there, and then we see these people go in, it's like, how do we know that they didn't actually do it? And then they bring him out on the gurney. You know what I mean? So there's still, it doesn't really give us like the answers that they think that it will. But
right.
The deputy director Bongino promised Thursday, which you notice they've gone on Fox News again. It's always Fox News. It's so annoying, especially coming from Bongino, who had his own alt media platform on Rumble. Bro, why are you on Fox News again? You already like the Bartolomo, and then now you're doing this one again. But It's just annoying. It's just an annoyance that's become a thorn in my side when it comes to the Trump administration, his cabinet. Everybody's just always on Fox News, but
Right.
so FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino promised Thursday to release new video that finally debunks conspiracy theories that sex predator Jeffrey Epstein could have been murdered, insisting no one was there but him in the time of his jail cell self-offing. There's video clear as day. Bongino told Fox and Friends he's the only person in there and he's the only person coming out. You can see it. So it's exactly as I had suspected. There's video when you look, he said, quote, there's video, and when you look at that video, and we will release it, we're working on clearing it up to make sure you have an enhanced, and we'll give the original so you don't think there'll be any shenanigans. So you'll see the one, so you'll see no one in there but him. There's just nobody there, Bongino said. I say to people of the time, I think it's all the time, but if you have a tip, let us know. But there's no DNA, there's no audio, there's no fingerprints, there's no suspects, there's no accomplices, there's no tips, there's nothing. If you have it, I'm happy to see it. So basically, once again, he's reiterating the fine detail that there's nothing in the file that indicates other than this official narrative that we're telling you. But the thing about this whole thing is that he says they have this video, but they're gonna enhance it so that we can see the details, then put out the original video so that we can see the unedited, unredacted, just original film. Well, why don't you give us that one now and give us your enhanced one in 3 weeks whenever the government finally gets around to doing it? Because we know they operate on technology from the 50s, according to the air traffic control system, right? It's ridiculous. I can upscale a video on Veed right now, especially like an 8-minute video, probably 15 minutes. It's like, what are they talking about? They're just talking to people like we're just so stupid that we don't have like I get it. Not everybody's into video editing, right? But Veed, a free program, a free website, you can load your video into, and you can upscale it. I'm sure. I don't upscale my own videos, but I'm sure it has it in there. It might be a paid feature, so you might have to pay $19 for a month or something. But like the government can't figure this out with their like sophisticated technology that they're supposed to have access to that's better than mine that I have in my house on my $3,000 computer. Like, are you seriously?
Or take advantage of the free labor, because when you post the original, 100 YouTubers are going to come along, try to clip it up and enhance it themselves, to just drop it.
Right, exactly. And like, we already know that enhanced video isn't like admissible in court. It's just worthless video. We saw in the Kyle Rittenhouse thing, they tried to enhance videos of the instance whenever he was going through his trial of the incident. And they were like, no, you can tell that video has been altered and enhanced by looking at the shape of the lights or whatever. You know what I mean? So it's like, there's no use in even enhancing the video. Just let us see what you got. Just let us see what you have. You've already promised to do it. Just let us see it.
Yep. But no, you're spot on. I think again, the way they talk, and the way the language is used, it does feel like you said, right? Like you're talking to people like they're retarded. And I don't think the average person takes too kindly to that as well. Especially when someone who works with video can go, what are you talking about? I can take a video and in 10 minutes on a free program at that, generate a higher quality version or use the AI to help enhance things.
Right. I can give the United States, I can deliver to them what you're promising in 2 hours. And that's giving myself plenty of time, plenty of padding. So, and I'm tired of the talk when it comes to these two already. And it sucks because Cash and Dan are our guys. And they came out and they talked, they came out, they spoke again. And I think my main after the first Maria Bartolomo interview, my main advice that I gave Dan back then and Cash back then was, you should have just shut your mouth. You should have never done the interview in the first place. When they asked you about Epstein, when they asked you about the Trump assassination in Butler, Pennsylvania, you should have said there's ongoing investigations and prosecutions. I'm not going to talk about it, and left it at that. And we would have been 100% satisfied. None of this would have happened in the first place. So once again, they went on TV and they talked more, and they should have just, once again, just shut up. Just not even say anything.
Right.
Quit trying to throw us bones when you know these bones are freaking nasty. It's disappointing.
I agree with just me there, right? Like, these aren't my guys. I mean, I would also argue too, like, they were never my guys to begin with. But I
no
think
Cash
that's
and
kind of
Dan used to be our
you
guys.
see from a lot of mega people. It's like it's not adding up, right? Like, none of this is adding up at all. And Dan Bongino, I think even more so than Cash, just because Dan obviously had a show where he talked to people day in and day out, and we have how many hours of his podcast where he was on our side with the Epstein stuff. To most people, it's just not, something ain't right. Like, something's not right here.
Mm-hmm.
I think most people can kind of at least pick that up. What it is per se that exactly isn't right about this, who's to say? But again, when you have so little trust, right? Like, we had maybe like 8% trust in the system, right? When Trump's doing all these crazy things or building momentum, and you nuke all of that for something like this, is like, I mean, we're right back to square one, where just nobody believes anything at all, literally at all. And so what do you do with that, right? I mean, to me, no system's even predictable if no one trusts it, if no one's willing to trust what's being said or what's being put out by the system. So again, puts us back on track for a very unsustainable pathway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So why is this? I'm curious. Why was this? AI suicide video. Why was this titled this?
Because the thought from the tweet there, that massive tweet, which would be the first one you looked at, that quoted that video, was viral for the fact that he was saying they're going to release an AI video.
Oh, gotcha.
Video of Epstein's supposed suicide is going to be a AI video. Like, and no one's going to believe it anyways. Like, even if you do come out the video, everyone's going to say it's AI.
Right. Okay. I'm with you now. Yeah, it's funny because, like, I've been saying, we're in the wild west of AI right now, and there's going to be heavy regulations coming down the chute, and something like that would speed the process. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, we're more like a couple weeks away than a year or so away. Like I was thinking, just the video capabilities are increasingly, exponentially, just getting better and better and better.
Right. And,
so we have this. What's that?
That's what I was gonna introduce that last one.
I was gonna say, yeah. So we have this other one here. Where'd it go? So the Biden mental decline scandal widens. We have a quote from the Secret Service saying that Biden would get lost in his own closet. And so we got this.
I thought it was satire when I first saw it. Like, I thought they were being hyperbolic. Like, that's like a Secret Service saying that. And then I read the article, and they're like, no, like, he literally was like multiple times had gotten lost in his closet. Like, what? And you didn't say anything? You're in the Secret Service. You wait till now to say that? Like I just have an issue with whistleblowers, dude. Like, I'll say nothing in the moment. Maybe 4 years if I can write a book and make some money off of saying something I should have said, just out of the honesty of what a decent human being would do. It's just like, I have a love-hate relationship with whistleblowers.
Right. So this Secret Service whistleblower said Biden would get lost in his closet at the White House. Senator Josh Hawley. And do we have this video? I actually reposted this video.
No, I didn't see the one of.
it says,
It's just
I'm
that
gonna
right there. Yeah, that's the
I'm gonna
main
read
part.
the intro and say, and then I'm going to find this video real quick. But a Secret Service whistleblower claims that former President Joe Biden was so out of it at the White House that he would get lost in his closet. Senator Josh Hawley revealed Friday the stunning level of disorientation is an example of why Democratic cover-up of Biden's mental decline is one of the biggest scandals in presidential history, Hawley argued. The Secret Service whistleblower actually was assigned to Biden. He told me that Biden used to get lost in his closet in the mornings at the White House, Hawley claimed, noting that he spoke to numerous Secret Service agents while investigating the assassination attempts against President Trump. Okay, so here, let me, I've reposted this, so it should be in my profile. Let's see. Oh, yeah, I got a couple other things I can show you. Oh, yeah, here it is right here.
I haven't said before because it came from a
Okay, let me, and this is what Nick Sorter posts. Okay, he just said the same stuff I have. All right, here we go.
Listen, I'll tell you something that I haven't said before because it came from a Secret Service whistleblower this past year. I talked to so many of them after the attempted assassinations of President Trump, but this Secret Service whistleblower actually was assigned to Biden, and he told me that Biden used to get lost in his closet in the mornings in the White House. I mean, the guy literally stumbling around in the White House residence couldn't find his way out of his own closet. The president of the United States. I mean, this is outrageous. We were lied to. And listen, I'll tell you something.
Oh, Jake Tapper, I have a breaking news story for your book.
We were lied to. Yeah.
Right. Jamie, glad you're feeling better now. Get yourself a little cat nap with the cats. So yeah, this is crazy. I mean, this dude was the the most powerful man on planet Earth, and the dude was getting lost in his closet playing Marco Polo and shit.
Yeah. I mean, like, what the hell are you supposed to do with this, right? Like, this calls into question, like, why are we not immediately trying to invalidate everything the Biden administration did? And on top of that, throwing everyone who knew in jail. Like, that's the most important part. Throwing those people in jail, not fines, jail. Like, I'm like, that there's hundreds of people who are close to him, his staffers, people who were on Joe Biden's staff, Secret Service members. And that even extends too, because I know a Secret Service member definitely don't watch Joe Biden struggle to get out of the closet and didn't tell his coworker, right? Like that stuff goes deep. And for people to have just kept their mouths shut for that long, right? How often do you hear about the conspiracy theories of, oh, do you think that many people knowing and they would all keep quiet about that? That's not real, right? Like that's
a bunch of news reporters that are just dying. They would freaking, kill their own mom for the next scoop. You know what I mean? On Trump or on the White House, and they just all look the other way in coordination.
Right. And it's like, yeah, I mean, we get how many time and time again where, yeah, you can definitely show a big enough network can maintain holding a lie. And this one was held over the American people. So I think that whole adage of, conspiracy theories don't make sense because somebody would say the truth, right? I think it falls flat when you see instance time and time again, like something like this that was this impactful. And we're something like this is even a political thing, right? We're talking about, should the most powerful person on the planet Earth be cognitively impaired, right? This isn't left versus right. This is a statement of, who do you want your leader to be? And we get it lied to over that. I mean, like it's insane. And again, the most important part is throwing the people who were behind this in jail, and not even most so because of the cover up, but because that they were actively acting in place of Biden, ineffectually acting as a shadow government, and were not elected officials making decisions for a person who otherwise could not.
Yeah, it's seditious conspiracy. I'm going to ask you guys in chat because I'm curious. And I think we all agree. I think I'm confident in speaking for most of you guys, but I'm still curious what you guys' thoughts are. As it pertains to Biden's pardons, as it pertains to his appointment of Ketanji Brown Jackson to the Supreme Court. Do you guys think that these things should be litigated? I don't know, looked into, just pulled down by a legitimate, basically it was an unfit, not of sound mind, wouldn't legally be able to buy a house, old man, appointing Supreme Court justices and giving people pardons and working around the legal system and everything like that. Like, is it too far if we just go and be like, nah, sorry, now Trump has a Supreme Court justice to appoint because Ketanji Brown Jackson isn't recognized anymore? I almost feel like Trump should just go ahead and do it. Just act as if she's illegitimate, appoint a new person, and just start going. Like, I don't know. I mean, the whole auto pin thing, I think should be is an abomination. I think that should be removed completely from the scenario. President Trump has no problem signing his pardons on camera with a big shiny marker. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, it seems very clear cut and dry to me that they don't really need the auto pin.
Well, I mean, the Ketanji Brown Jackson question answers itself. I mean, no one in their right mind should be put on the Supreme Court if you cannot give an answer of what a woman is. You have forever abdicated your ability to place a rightful judgment on anything when you're unwilling to provide an actual answer to a very basic question. You don't even need Biden to be, mentally incapacitated for her to not be on the Supreme Court. That one, I think, by far is a verbal admit of someone who is not qualified to be on the Supreme Court.
Yeah, you're right. But you know what? I'm 100% with you. But House just threw a wrench in that plan, which is a good point. The Senate approved her, so everything else should be on the table. But
I'm a big believer in empires and emperors, and I will take Emperor Trump if it means he gets Ketanji Brown Jackson off the Supreme Court.
You know, at this point, if anybody in the Senate that approved her, they need to have a cognitive freaking test done too. I mean, and Ketanji Brown Jackson couldn't even identify what a woman was when she was being interrogated. So, I mean, the fact that the Senate approved her after that was just absolutely ridiculous. I mean, how could she represent half of the American population, women, if she can't even define what they are? But I guess that's neither here nor there, right?
Yeah.
It's really stupid. Really stupid.
No, I get it though. I mean, obviously, if the Senate approved her, it's more of a confirmed thing. But
yeah,
I think all of it, anything that was done in those 4 years is subject for investigation at this point.
What sucks is we need Trump to be the dictator the left warned us that he would be, but just to work around all the bull crap, to undo the crap that they set in place. A side note, I didn't see that Trump was trying to up the standard to 6,000 deportations per day, which would I did the math. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but I want to say it was over 4 million deportations over 4 years, which before at the current pace, he was only on pace to deport 950,000 over the 4 years. So if he can up that to 6,000, or maybe it was 3,000, actually, it might've been 3,000 per day, but regardless, any escalation that they can get in those deportations, we're here for it. So that's a good thing. And I'm glad to see that Trump is actually noticing it, addressing it, barking out orders to increase those numbers, because you and I know they need it. There's at least 10,000 documented illegals that came into our country under Biden. And did I say 1,000? I meant to say million. And then I think potentially, another 10 to 30 million that came across other ways that didn't come through the checkpoints. And that's really the ways that the cartels are taking the individuals across. These people don't want to go through checkpoints if they don't have to. You know what I mean? So,
right.
It's a crazy thing, but good thing at least good thing Trump is at least addressing it, and it was good to hear it come out of his mouth or whatever, and read the article.
One thing I did forget to mention too is in the Discord. If anybody did want to come onto the show and wanted to call in, you can do that via Discord. Figured now is probably the best time as ever. We basically covered the main topics we wanted to discuss. So if anybody did want to jump into Discord, join the green room. Just message me or Worrell, or just make it known here in chat. We'll pull you on. I'll leave that
for
open
sure.
for a little bit now.
For sure. And if you guys haven't joined the Discord, the link should be, or is, in the description on the YouTube video.
Yeah, Flying Kite says it's all a ruse, boys, to make you think they're doing something about it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And so we got to make sure we're not falling for, the bullshit. We got to hold their feet to the fire. When they get something done, we pat them on the back, say good job, and then ask them what they got next for us. You know what I mean? What's next on the agenda? We're never going to be satisfied, even if these are our guys. We just have so much that we need to get done, that and there's so little time that everything, the time is of the essence every day. I saw a great interview yesterday. I don't know, a couple of days ago. Tim Pool had on Tom Homan, and man, I like that guy. I think that dude is completely focused, and he's dedicated to doing what Trump hired him to do, which was secure the border and get those deportations going. And dude's coming from a good place, and I thought that was a good interview, and came out of that thinking, all right, move in the right direction. Confident. You come out of that and you're like, all right, I feel good about what they're doing. You come out of the Dan Bongino, Kash Patel interviews and you're like, what the fuck's going on in the FBI? You know what I mean? So definitely Tom Homan is the highest score of the Trump cabinet appointees so far on our ratings list. He's definitely in that S tier. So we got some more.
I guess my broader thoughts on were like thinking about doing things like the legal way or the right way, or even on that instance, right, of Ketanji being admitted by the Senate. I guess it makes me think at the end of the day too, like, why are we protecting a system that's, I guess, failed us over and over and over and over again? That's kind of like where my mind goes to, right? People are like, we have to protect democracy. And then when I think about it, I'm like, well, wait a minute, you mean like the system that is systematically targeted everyone who looks like me and believes the same things as me, and continues to this day? Are you talking about the same 2-year trend where everybody talks about how we got to primary those rhinos, but somehow there's a bajillion of them every single year? And it gets me thinking too, where what does it matter what we call this system if in effect it behaves a different way? Right. So, for example, like I think most people would argue they know that there is a clear kind of finger on the scales of our system. And it seems that obviously we're not in a direct democracy, but just more so to say that the republic clearly isn't working as it should be intending.
Yeah.
I think Tim Pool even points this out when they changed the metric by which senators are voted on, because it used to be that the representatives, like the House members, used to vote for senators, where the Senate wasn't an actual election you could vote in as a citizen. It would be voted on by the state representatives would vote for their senators to push forward, which in turn actually increased your connection by proxy, which was, it meant more who you voted for as a House representative, because in turn they would be representing your vote for who they picked for senators. So it was a closer system. But I guess I say all that to say right now, I think everyone can notice the similarities between the last Trump presidency and this one, which is the system will throw every single wrench, including the kitchen sink, at President Trump, or in fact, anyone who is a member of the Freedom Caucus or any value similar, to force them in a position where there's so much red tape you can't get anything done. And so I guess when I look at that at the end of the day, that's why I think you do see so many people who are posting, Baron Trump, Emperor Trump Baron. Because people have effectively, they've recognized that the system does not work the way it was intended to, and it hasn't for some time. The trust in even our own election system has been lost. you see the disparticipation rate, right? Even the last election, less than 47% of people in this country even voted. Like, or no, I think that's what, or even voted for Trump, but it was like only 110 million people voted. So it's like 33% or something like that. And so you see that people just aren't even participating at large. And then you look at local elections, right? And it's even worse than that, right? It's like 8% of this county even came out and voted because people are just so tired of it. They don't believe in the system. They don't believe there's even power in them. And so in effect, it's we don't have a democracy, right? In effect.
Right.
That's effectually how it's operating right now. You know, definitionally and legal challenges would say otherwise, depending on how the lawsuit would go. But I think that's why you see most people are going, who cares? Take away all the rules. Make Trump dictator. I don't care. Whatever it takes to make these changes effectual immediately, that's what needs to get done. And I think, you know, the more we kind of move away, I think people might be, you know, have a negative taste in their mouth about democracy, especially how the left wields the broken definition of it, right?
Right.
Oh, he's going to destroy
Their
our
democracy.
democracy. And like they're the ones that are doing it too. So you have like a semantic battle in there as well. It's
Right.
just, you know, I think the overall culmination is extremely depressing and it's very
Well,
black.
Well, a threat to their democracy is exactly what they're telling us. They want
Right.
to turn our constitutional republic into a democracy. So if you're a threat to converting the constitutional republic to their democracy, you're a threat to their democracy. It's not the existing, you know, democracy that's on the books that they're trying to. It's a fake, you know, it's a fake dog whistle.
Yeah. Well, and the way
House says primaries have small turnouts. Get out and vote. Incumbents out. Yeah, that's something that
Right.
everybody needs to do more of. Is vote in your local, smaller, more regular elections. Those are the ones that are going to impact your lives more immediately, anyways, than a presidential election. But that's where it all starts. You know, so you got to research those people and make sure you're electing people on the ground floor, and then as they move up, at least you're starting from a better base. But you know, corruption.
And so I'm obviously very radical compared to your average, you know, MAGA pundit. And I understand that. I guess when I think about it, you know, with all of that considered, I look at the founding fathers, right? Less than what was it? It was like 34% or 33% were even revolutionaries. The bigger proponent of that group was people who just said, just leave me alone. And so I can only vote for myself. You know, that's it. And I think if I look at the framing of the founding fathers, right, like if they would have just simply waited, right, maybe they say, hey, you know what, we're not going to do this. We're going to wait for people to do better things. We're going to hope that and pray that people just do like are responsible human beings. We're going to hope and pray that they're accountable. They wake up and they recognize what we do. The revolution probably would have never happened. And so I guess I say all that to say I feel a very similar kind of energy right now. Maybe it's not in the same kind of nature of people just going in, you know, in immediate violent kind of conflict, but I do see the energy uprising, and especially among the youth too, where it is throw the whole thing away, uh, destroy the entire thing, and especially because I do see like the disparticipation growing. Like I think as you lose trust in the system, I would expect people to be less involved. And I don't even foresee a reality in which even 5 years from now, that local elections are at 40 to 50% participation rate. I don't even see that. I see it going backwards. And you see it in the youth too. Like maybe the youth, I guess, is maybe a bit more politically inclined because it's affecting them a lot more than it was generations prior. But I guess that's my main point would be if the founding fathers were waiting for everyone else to get their shit together, like we would have probably never had America. And so I guess that's kind of when I look at it, it's a tough thing to prospect because, you know, maybe there is a reality in which if you were ever waiting for voting your way out of hell, maybe that's not even a thing that's possible. And so maybe where's the point when you start looking like, what are other solutions? What is other ways we get out of this? And that may not mean like, you know, seeding from the country and forming your own group, but what are ways that you can organize, you know, homes and families, maybe more similar to like what we saw in Waco, where we say, we don't care what the government says. We don't care what your rules are. But if you want to tell us how to live, we're going to gun it out. I don't know. I don't know how that's going to happen, but I do see that, you know, occurring, especially when you get tweets like, you know, the guy was like, I had to walk past 3 vape stores. I walked past 4 weed dispensaries in two addict homes giving out EpiPens before I had to before I had to present my ID and call my local sheriff department so I could buy raw milk. Right? It's like, he's walking past all these places you can just go in and buy something, but for raw milk, it's like the government doesn't want you to have it. And so everyone can tell intuitively, like, there's something not right here. It seems that everything that's healthy and good for us is pushed away, shoved in the corner, and demonized. And everything that's evil, degenerate, and makes you a violent human being that will forever forsake your soul is what's promoted and pushed for. Then it's not good. And you look at the current track rate of governments as well, too. Right? It's like empires last like 250 years.
Yeah.
Like we're at that point.
Yeah.
And it's just something that's like, it's just a terrifying prospect. But it's one that I feel has a lot more merit to it than people would give it credit for.
True. Yeah, I forgot about that. Just me. Just like you weren't allowed to buy seeds for your garden during COVID. Yeah, so damn sketchy. Yeah.
Right.
I forgot all about that, but that's true. And other people were receiving like random unsolicited seeds. That was weird.
Right.
So I got this other story here. So there's still currently a boy running in the California or it's actually, I'm sorry, the Washington State Champions meet, and this goes against Trump's executive order that Trump's declaration that boys are not allowed in women's sports, and there's two genders. And so we got this one from Riley Gaines. Breaking: Logan Veronica Garcia just dominated the girls' 400-meter prelims at the 2A Washington State Championship meet. He will compete for the state title tomorrow. So that was actually today that he competed for the state title. She posted this yesterday. We will see examples of girls losing opportunities to boys every day. When will enough be enough? And you can see,
that is lane 4. Veronica Garcia with a comfortable lead.
They don't even fake it and like make it seem like it's close. Wouldn't you? That just goes to show you how stupid these people are. Like they can't even like fake it and just win by like a little bit. They dominate the competition. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the thing too. Like I did track in high school. Like if you only beat those girls by 2 seconds, you'd be getting smoked.
Well, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely getting smoked.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Raul Garcia, you mean?
Yeah. I think the average times for like collegiate levels, someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's close to like 49 seconds. It's like just under 50 seconds is like a really good time for the 400 and collegiate race. And I think these girls were timed he timed at like 57. So if he was participating in the men's race, it would look the same, except he would be the straggler while the rest of the heat is finishing ahead of him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly. And so then Riley posted this 7 hours ago.
This past week, the state of California, specifically Gavin Newsom, has been in the hot seat. We have known Gavin Newsom to be this fence sitter, whether it's men and women's sports, whether it's COVID, whatever the topic is, he has sat on the fence continually and winked at both sides. He's very charming. He's like that slimy car salesman, right? But I believe we are now, especially the people outside of California who don't have to deal with his radical policies, who have to live through the destructive nature of what he is enforcing. We see through that at this point. All that to say, President Trump, just this past week, he put out a tweet, and it was like super early in the morning, which is in true Trump fashion. He says, California, under the leadership of radical left Democrat Gavin Newsom, which is hilarious, continues to illegally allow men to play in women's sports. This week, a transition male athlete at a major event won everything and is now qualified to compete in the state finals next weekend. As a male, he was less than an average competitor, and as a female, this transition person is practically unbeatable. This is not fair and totally demeaning to women and girls. Please be hereby advised that large-scale federal funding will be held back, maybe permanently, if the executive order on this subject matter is not adhered to. The governor himself said it's unfair. I will speak to him today to find out which way he wants to go. In the meantime, I am ordering local authorities, if necessary, to not allow the transition person to compete in the state finals. This is a totally ridiculous situation. And of course, when he refers to Gavin Newsom calling this situation deeply unfair, this is what he's referencing. It's a podcast with Charlie Kirk.
So like you right now should come out and be like, you know what? The young man who's about to win the state championship in the long jump in female sports, that shouldn't happen. You as the governor should step out and say no.
No, and I appreciate it.
But like, would you do something like that? Would you say no men in female sports?
Well, I think it's
the answer is no.
An issue of fairness. I completely agree with you on that. So that's easy to call out the unfairness of that. There's also a humility and a grace. That these poor people are more likely to commit suicide, have anxiety and depression. And the way that people talk down to vulnerable communities is an issue that I have a hard time with as well. So both things I can hold in my hand. How can we address this issue with the kind of decency that I think, is inherent in you, but not always expressed?
You're involved in this situation on a day-to-day basis. You see it personally. You've been at these meets where the male athlete that President Trump is referring to is competing. Can you just provide a little insight for those of us who maybe are first only hearing about this situation from President Trump's tweet?
You know what? We've been sounding the alarm. Obviously, California, we say it over and over. Whatever happens in California, so goes the nation, because let's be real, it does start to go throughout the nation. This kid is about to go, nationals when he competes. But we've been fighting the good fight. Again, when I was just a mom invited and was trying to pervert Title IX and change it to allow boys in there, we were fighting it back then and asking and begging our school board to be a voice. You see the legislators in Sacramento. Newsom plays both sides. I'm glad that you pointed that out, because he knows he has the majority, the super majority in California, to allow it to happen. So he's able to play like that smooth, slimy dude, on both sides, because nothing will change. We've had assembly members, senators bring up bills and they don't even get a hearing. And one time they got like a partial hearing, they referred to us parents as the Nazis, right?
They sure did. Parents are the worst offenders when they go to defend their children from this. It's incredibly sad. It's pathetic that this is still going on. I saw Steve made a comment about take that, feminists. But what's funny is a boy playing a girl sport is like anti-feminist. The feminists should be the first ones against this. They should be protecting the women in the women's sports, but they're not. They're bought into the cult of the left, and there's some, actually I'll backtrack that. There's some traditional feminists that are like that, but you don't hear from them very often anymore. That's for sure. Riley posted this. This was cool. The girl that took second behind this boy actually got pictures taken standing at the top of the podium in the first place position. It's symbolic or whatever, but
I mean, I guess, I do kind of agree there with Steve, where, like, what do you want me to do about it? Why aren't the girls just not participating? Why are the girls not grouping together and saying, we're not racing against this guy? I mean, is that hard?
I get that, but honestly, dude, these are kids. We're the men that are supposed to protect the women, and and I mean, it's just simplified as that, really. I mean, and then asking a girl that's 15 years old to not compete in one of the 4 state championships, that's the max amount of opportunities they'll have in a 4-year high school career, not even guaranteeing that they'll ever make another one because you have to qualify for the state competition. It's just stupid. You know what I mean? Like it.
Well, I mean, but this is where we are, right? You can't hold those simultaneously. You can't say women are completely capable of the same things as men, and then the moment you need bailed out of a political situation.
Well, nobody's saying that they're capable of the same thing as men. It's running track in a women's competition against women.
No, I'm saying when you say that we are protectors of women, right?
Right.
Like that's what we should do.
Yeah.
So if we are the ones that protect women, that inherently implies that women cannot protect themselves, which I agree with.
I mean, they can if they got guns. No, but right. I mean,
even a female cop with guns, we see this all the time.
Like,
right?
well, look, I get the argument that if the women aren't going to stand up, and I've said this myself, if the women aren't going to stand up and not compete, and take a stand themselves, then who am I to stand up and fight for them? But at the same time, like, these are kids. These aren't even 18-year-old kids. This is a high school competition. They might be 18 at the oldest, right? And so you're talking about like not even adults. And so the adults should be fighting these fights, not the children. And the adults should have common sense heads in the room. And you have a bunch of airhead people that are dedicated to their ideology and not even fan of sports. Let's just be real. They're not even a fan of the sports. They don't even give a shit. They're not entertained by the competition. They don't have a dog in the fight. They just want the trans to be able to compete. or whatever. And it's like, yeah, they can, just in the proper divisions. You know what I mean?
Right.
And what are we going to start doing? Advocating for heavyweight boxers to start fighting the flyweights because they identify as skinny or something? Like, it's just stupid. And nobody wants to see it anyways, even if it was allowed.
Yeah, but my point is, like, at least in my experience, the majority of like women's basketball coaches are women. The majority of volleyball coaches are women. The majority of cheerleading coaches are women. The majority of track athlete coaches are women. So I'm not saying that girls need to be standing up, like the 8-year-old girls that are participating in these things. I'm saying largely in female sports, you do have a lot of women inside the infrastructure who are staffing the events, who are holding these things. I mean, at least in my experience, that's how it was when I was growing up. I mean, I would find it weird if that's a bunch of men are the ones coaching females. I mean, that already is just odd by itself if that is the case. But I'm saying, like, where are the women? Like, the women should be the one that's standing up for their own, right? Like,
Right.
that's what
Well,
I'm
there
saying.
are some. There's just, unfortunately, their voice isn't as amplified as the white liberal, you know.
Yeah, but I'm not
White
talking about
liberal
the
woman.
pundits either. I'm talking about the women who were involved in this scenario here, right?
Right.
I
Well, I
would
mean,
wait
here,
till if
here,
there's a
well,
girl
here, let me
track
play this
coach.
video right here. You'll get you get to hear the parents, an aspect from the parents' perspective.
We got our men now taking to the stage. In lane number 1 from North Torrance, 38-51 last week. Strong and low.
So I mean, there's the people speaking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's your applause indicator right there. You know, you who won? You cheer the loudest. I mean, it was crickets when dude was on the podium, but then whenever she goes over, the rightful winner, the women's champion who took second to the behind the man, the boy, everybody cheered, or a group cheered. You know what I mean? So I mean, you have kind of the people there supporting lending their voice to the fight. The problem is a lot of people don't know how to fight, and the bigger problem is the legislation isn't hearing it. Like that lady said that I just played in the interview. She said, you know, when the parents went in and tried to stand up, they were put on terrorist watch lists or whatever. You know what I mean? They're arrested and hauled out from the FBI. So the problem is the powers that be, the institutions have been infiltrated and corrupted. You know what I mean? It's hard for folks to fight. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard for me to fight other than beyond just lending my voice to it right now.
Well, that's the point. It's like this. Do people think at any point in time fighting is easy?
No, you're right. No, you're right. But sitting out, the girls sitting out is not the solution. Asking them to fight the battle that they didn't get themselves into is not the solution, right?
Well, then that means that what your solution is, they continue to participate against trans men until someone else does something for them. I think that's not the right way to handle it either.
Well, then they should stop running track.
Well,
I mean, that's their option. That's their option, right?
That's not what I'm saying. You're misconstruing me. I'm sorry. I'm saying at some point you just say, don't include him. You just, like, the girls can get together and say, we're racing. Don't include him.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. That is what the girls should do collectively. They should act like the dude isn't even there. Right. You know what I mean? Like, okay, fine, we'll take our picture with you at the top, and then we're going to take our picture as it really is with you out of it, and we're going to acknowledge and lend credibility to the truth. So yeah, I mean, I totally agree with that. That is a way that they could fight. That's a way that maybe they need to magnify that message, you know, amongst the culture into these girls. You know, they say, all right, fine, the guy wants to go out there and do that. What we're going to start doing is we're going to start laughing at them. We're going to start, you know, making fun of them. We're going to humiliate them. We're going to bring back shame, and then we're going to act like it's irrelevant. We're going to act like he's playing a game by himself.
Exactly.
And that's not going to be fun for them for very long. And before long, they'll start bowing out. And yeah, so yeah, I mean, that is a way, but sitting out, I don't think is a solution. And I don't think it's fair to ask them to sit out because the opportunities are limited.
Well, it depends on the sport, right? Like if you're a father, right, and your girl's like the fencing example, I'm not going to have my daughter fence against a male. Like, she's definitely sitting out. Like we're not going to do this as some glory cry while I watch this man beat the hell out of my daughter in hopes that Fox News covers it so someone does something about it.
Well, wrestling,
I'm
there's
more so
girl
saying, like,
wrestlers.
yeah, and take that to the parents too. Like, I'm also arguing the parents just cheering in a video in a crowd after the fact doesn't do much really to help resolve the situation here, right? It's operating inside of the system. Whereas I'm also saying, like, the parents, it's never going to be easy, dude. Like, you're going to get ostracized. People on Facebook aren't going to like you, but that's part of it. And that's what I'm pointing to. Really, what I'm most disappointed with is people choosing convenience 99 times out of 100. Nothing will change with convenience. And this is actually going back to my other argument with revolutionaries, which is where it seems there's a lot of young men in Gen Z who are like, we're sick of this, dude. We're sick of everyone telling us that you can't do anything. You just have to keep dealing with this shit because, like, it's not resonating with them. And I think as that grows, I mean, like, maybe you do get some kind of event where people go crazy, right? And they like, maybe they take the trainer the day before and they shove them in a locker or something like that. Like, I don't know. But, you know, for the parents to complain and, like, just hopefully someone out there hear me, it's like, that's not a solution. You know, it's like, you have to do something. You have to make it known. And it's even worse so because these are little girls, right? Like, you're telling me the parents are just saying, like, oh, my work day is so busy. Like, well, hopefully you don't get hurt, honey. Like, I know you're racing against a man, but what am I supposed to do? The moms in my Facebook group are going to think negatively of me. It's like, you got to pick. Is your daughter more important? Do you believe in what's right and what's good? Are you going to stand up for what's right and what's good? Or are you going to be the bystander everybody points out in history that says, look at them, they did nothing? I mean, I know it's not easy. I know it's not easy, but I'm telling you, as somebody who's trying to even grow a channel, like, talking about things that nobody is allowed to talk about, and, like, you know, there's a big, like, censorship thing. It's like, it can't be this way. It can't continue this way. Like, or otherwise we will get very, very, very negative outcome. And so this is kind of our last dying breath of, let's try to talk it out, because if we stay on this rate, dude, it's going to get really bad really quickly. And then no one's going to have a say in it because voting won't be a thing anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the solutions aren't easy because, like I said, the institutions aren't affected, and so
yeah,
you know, when parents try to fight, and the law enforcement sides with the institution, you know, parents got to work. Parents got to make sure that they don't get thrown in jail. They got to pay the bills.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, the high school sport goes away for that student if the parent loses the job. High school sports are expensive. They require a lot of time.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? If it's not taken care of on the front end, so that's the problem. Is the everyday life is hard enough for anybody, anyways, to then go and take up this battle for their daughter on their track team. You know what I mean? Because on the grand scale of life, it's rather minute compared to making sure there's food on the table and shelter over your head, right?
Yeah.
In
And
a world
a rebuttal to that would be, the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
right. But, you know, we still got to, you know, just to finish off there, we should still be obligated to try to protect the institutions, because not the institutions, but the children specifically, and the sanctity of sport, just from a sportsman perspective. People want fair competition. People want equal competition. I mean, throw everything else aside. It's why we have weight classes. It's why we have pro ranks. It's why we have amateur ranks. It's not just age groups. You know, it's why we have weight classes. It's
right.
You know, people pay money to watch sports not because one team just constantly kicks the shit out of the other, because there is a back and forth. You know what I mean? So it's got to be entertaining, and it's not about just playing the sport. Like, that's the perspective that a lot of people want from the LGBTQ perspective. They're like, oh, but they want to play the sports too. They have a right to play the sport. And it's like, yeah, they do, but they don't have the right to take away everybody else's ability to participate because they're there. You know what I mean? To insert their presence and ruin it for everybody else. I don't know. It's pretty messed up. Pretty messed up scenario. So then we got this other thing here. Oh, this is actually funny. This is somebody flew a plane, no boys and girls sports, over the California track and field state championship. So that's pretty cool.
California at Veterans Memorial Stadium.
So I mean,
It, blends in
there's
with
some
the sky.
there's some fight back. You know what I mean? But who's gonna listen? Who's gonna listen?
Yeah, I guess I don't know. Is that as effective as, being a father and losing your ever-loving mind at the stadium? Like, I don't know what's more effective, right?
Yeah, I'd go nuts. I mean, people would know that there's some dad that's really pissed off. What's up, Bustalo Maserati? Interesting name, pretty cool name. But yeah, I mean, sitting back, if that was my daughter participating, I would be the loudest dude in the stadium. Everybody would know that there's some dude that is not happy about the boy running track, and I'd be saying stuff like, "Don't let me catch that sucker in my daughter's locker room." I'd stand outside the door and guard that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, the dude gonna try to walk in there? Nope. Like, sorry, bud. The boys is over there. You can go in there. So, anyways, I got this other story. There's this big mass bust going on in Florida. ICE agents not broke into, but I don't even know where to start. Guess we'll just start with this one right here. So, breaking, the Trump administration is going after the company who hired the illegal aliens at the center of a huge ICE raid in Florida yesterday. Governor Ron DeSantis says, send a message, no hiring illegals. So here we'll just, like I said, we'll just start here and we'll just kind of navigate through this. Okay. So we just got video. I'm gonna mute it, but we just got video of the complex. Tons of police cars, ICE police, right there at the FSU campus. Okay, so here we got some footage of the workers being lined up by ICE, and it is a lot of them. And it looks like that might actually be on an FSU campus. Okay, so here's another video. Here's
videos of it. I know that I did see a photo of the aftermath, and they said it was like a third of the workers were there the next day on the construction site.
Dang. Yeah, I figured that's just mutable. But that's a lot of dudes. Looks like they're probably building this housing, these apartments or whatever. Shitting in plastic bags. I used to be a laborer on one of those sites. These dudes will shit in plastic bags and throw it in the closets and stuff because they'll be up on the second or third floor and they can't get down without climbing. Yeah, nasty dudes.
Yeah.
Yo, what up, Michael?
They said they're starting it at like 3,000 and they're going to scale up. They have like a schedule to go up to what you said, 6,000 a day or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. I know they wanted to ramp it up quite a bit from the 680 per day that we were averaging. Nick Sorter posted, a federal investigation has just been launched into the subcontractor whose job site was raided by ICE in Florida. Good, cut the money off for illegals at the source, and they'll be much more likely to self-deport, hold employers of illegals accountable. And, I got to say this, there is a massive shortage for construction workers like these dudes in Florida, probably all over the place. But Florida, we're surrounded on three sides by ocean, and WDO, wood destroying organisms, is a big problem down here. Everything's trying to destroy your house. And so there's just more work than workers. If you're a carpenter, you can move to Florida and be put to work right away. Like the excuse to not find a job for some people is just so beyond me or whatever. But this hurts. This, you know what I mean? Taking all these construction workers, like, this sucks for production. I love it for the country. It sucks for production. Unfortunately, this company put itself in a position to where they're accustomed to paying these dudes probably half as much as what they should be paying, American workers. And so they're going to have a real hard time replacing these dudes with Americans on proper wage levels. And
well, you might remember that TikTok of that contractor crying because they deported like half of his employees, and he was just like weeping. He was like, "My company's going to go into the ground now because you, Trump. I was trying to give these people like better lives." And it's like, nah, dude, like your whole business model fell through because now you got to pay Americans actual wages, and you can't get by on scamming people off like this ridiculous margin you're running. They don't even feel bad for that, dude. And
Right.
even more so, like the guys who were hiring them, like the foreman and the people who were organizing this, jail, dude. I know
Yeah.
there ain't no way you didn't know these guys weren't illegal. Jail. Get the hell out of here.
Yeah,
Like, you're
dude.
helping orchestrate this. You're just as bad as the the border patrol agents who, bring them to different locations. You're like the last stop. You help make sure they stay good and no one finds out about them.
Right. Exactly. And it's the fine for hiring these dudes, I think is super cheap. I think it's like $150. Most companies historically would just pay the fine and keep the guys on staff unless they get deported. But this is a big bust for ICE. A bunch of guys in one place. Start hitting up the construction sites, I guess, man. You're gonna find a high, consolidation of people. Unfortunately, the hard workers, the dudes out here covered in dirt, busting their ass, breaking their hands and their knuckles and their backs to build, our country up. It sucks to bust these guys, but if these dudes would have gone through the right process, maybe they'd be here legally with those jobs being paid properly. These guys are kind of, I don't know. I mean, they're kind of victims too. They're criminals. They broke into our country. They know what they did. But at the same time, like, I would do the same shit for my family. I feel like we would be obligated to do that. You know what I mean? As young, able-bodied men coming up, we'd be obligated to go and try to do that for our families. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I feel bad, but at the same time, it's just for our own good, and this is the reality of what these deportations look like. Like I said, I wish it were busing, the scumbags that were dealing drugs and, not necessarily contributing to our society. But at the same time, these dudes are guaranteed working for less. So it's not the contribution that we're really looking for as well.
Right. I do have to take off though because I got to get my daughter ready for bed.
Yeah, you're good. You're good, man. I appreciate you sticking around for an extra hour. He's got good numbers right now, so I figured we'd stick around a little bit longer. Try to get as many eyeballs as possible. And, I think we're at actually a good point to wrap up the show anyways. Got church tomorrow, Sunday. So people should be planning on getting up early. All that good stuff. You know what I mean? Let's see here. Want to ask everybody, we got a bunch of folks over on X. Once again, we are building this channel up on YouTube. We've only been at it for a couple weeks. We're only like 100 subs. So if you guys wouldn't mind opening up the YouTube app, looking up the Jar Openers podcast channel. If you add channel, it usually will take you right to the channel. We're called the Jar Openers podcast. And love your support. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Maybe check out some of our clips. And then, of course, come back for our next show, which we're live every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. And, we got a Discord. You guys can click the link in the description. We also have other channels, our own individual channels. Mine's America First TV. Atlas Thugged is the name of Atlas Thugged channel.
Yep.
Also, both links are in the description. Check them out as well. Make sure you subscribe. It's a free way, fun way you guys can help us grow in the the alt media space. And we appreciate all the support. Appreciate you guys taking a few minutes to help us out. Also follow on X, Rumble. We're up on all the main ones. And other than that, what do you have? You have anything else?
Nope, that's basically it. Go check out my latest video if you haven't. It's taken off. I think it's still taken off as of right now. Notifications are fried.
Yeah.
Gotta turn them off. But with that, though, I do want to end with a Nicene Creed, as always. Just getting in the habit of finishing the show off with a prayer. If everybody would like to join me, I did send it. If you wanted to put it on screen, you don't have to, though.
I didn't see it. Where'd you send it?
In the it's on what's it called? On stage or a backstage at StreamYard. I sent it with a screen share. It should just be next to my
You
little,
staged it. Okay, you staged it. My bad. All right.
Staged it. Yeah, I literally couldn't the term for what I'm supposed to use.
No, you're good. Which one? Gotta remove that before I add that. Okay, there you go.
Yep, there we go. Perfect. Okay, so here it is, guys. I believe in one God, the Father Almighty, maker of heaven and earth, of all things visible and invisible. I believe in one Lord Jesus Christ, the only begotten Son of God, born of the Father before all ages, God from God, light from light, true God from true God, begotten, not made, consubstantial with the Father. Through him all things were made. For us men and for our salvation he came down from heaven, and by the Holy Spirit was incarnate of the Virgin Mary and became man. For our sake he was crucified under Pontius Pilate. He suffered death and was buried, and rose again on the third day in accordance with the Scriptures. He ascended into heaven, and is seated at the right hand of the Father. He will come again in glory to judge the living and the dead, and his kingdom will have no end. I believe in the Holy Spirit, the Lord, the giver of life, who proceeds from the Father and the Son, who with the Father and the Son is adored and glorified, who has spoken through the prophets. I believe in one holy, Catholic, and Apostolic Church. I confess one baptism for the forgiveness of sins, and I look forward to the resurrection of the dead and the life of the world to come. Amen.
All right. Thanks for reading that. And then the verse of the day from the YouVersion Bible app is Psalms 100, verse 5. And it is, "For the Lord is good, and his love endures forever. His faithfulness continues through all generations." And with that, I'll just say we'll see you guys on Monday. Christ is King. And we have the greatest chat on YouTube. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you.
Have a good night, everybody.
With war rolling at the start, we here to bring the truth. Jar open this podcast, we breaking through the fake news. They try to silence us, but we will be subdued. We're bearded alpha males here to save the youth. Spitting fire on the mic with the bass Christian takes. Exposing the lies, keeping the demons at bay. We ain't afraid to speak up, we won't be swayed. Jar open this podcast, where the truth is laid. Jar openers, cracking open the lies. We're rolling Atlas up, we're here to rise. Bearded alpha males saving the youth from the godless demons, spreading the truth. We ain't playing games, we're on a mission to awaken the masses with our intuition. Pulling out the corruption with no inhibition. Jar open this podcast, sparking a revolution. We're not afraid to stand tall in a world full of deceit. We're the voice of reason, bringing light to the street, keeping it real, never missing a beat. Jar open this podcast, where the truth meets the heat. Jar openers, cracking open the lies. We're rolling Atlas up, we're here to rise. Bearded alpha males saving the youth from the godless demons, spreading the truth. Jar open this podcast, where the truth will never cease. Join us on the journey to bring back peace. We're rolling Atlas up, fearless in our release. Jar open this podcast, where the lies will decrease.